broadcast.
You got these super swanky new Pioneer headphones
A bit jealous.
that they sent to us. They're fucking great. Like, they're just comfy as shit.
They are nice.
and even. All right, here we are. Voice of Electronic Music, episode number 42 already with LaRock. What's up, man?
Good to meet up. Good to do this, man.
Yeah, dude. How you doing?
Very good, man. I love San Francisco, so it's always a treat to come back, spend some time here.
Yep.
You know, to be able to play this run of gigs that I have with the Defected Records crew is a huge honor.
Yeah.
You know, it's a label that I think anybody in like the dance and house world is like, if you dig through your back catalog, you look through your USB sticks, like
You got something on Defected. Yeah. Yep.
So it's been a big goal of mine. I was able to actually play out here last November with them. That was with Sam Divine and Low Steppa, which again is an honor. You know, I've had a chance to meet them and spend some time with them in Ibiza and I think a bit in London. So to be able to do some stuff with them stateside and kind of be like a little bit of the American rep for them is a good feeling. And then this show coming up too with Riva Starr and Ferric Dawn. Riva and I don't think we've really had much chance to hang out in the past, but I've released with this label before with Snatch, and those releases went really well. So, you know, I really appreciate these people a lot of times championing my sound and, you know, putting out my music. So to be able to like kind of come here, like make some records with them is, yeah, it's a huge honor.
Totally, man. Totally. And that's this Friday here.
Yeah,
right?
that
Riva
is.
Starr.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think we've had Riva Starr as long as I've been here. But I've been, you know, well familiar with the music.
Yeah.
Really excited to see it and see you play again. I think you've played here once since I've been here.
Yeah. Like I said, I think last November.
Yeah.
And Riva to me has always kind of been one of those artists. It's like almost like Defected. You know, you could look through as soon as I see his tracks on Beatport, I buy them, I spin them. It's like sight unseen type of thing. I could pretty much just throw them on the decks and you know they'll work. You know,
Right.
So for us as DJs, that like to have that like kind of presence and that like almost concrete sound and stability is like it's super admirable. Just to think of somebody, it's like any DJ sight unseen could pop on your track and it'll work.
Right.
Like, I've always strived to be that type of artist myself too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kind of like a unspoken vote of confidence and quality in whatever it is they make. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. The party starters, like, you know how their kicks are gonna sound. You know it's gonna like really boom in a system like this.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, that's it's an amazing skill set to have as an artist.
Absolutely. So what I know I was listening to some of your tracks earlier. You've got I guess most recent you've got When is a single.
Yeah, that came out with Exploited Ghetto. Actually, it's a Berlin-based label that has, you know, been around for quite some time now in the house scene. A label I've always looked up to and kind of strived. I mean, it's kind of weird. I'll have something in mind of what I think will work on a label.
Yeah.
Just because of their past sound and their past releases. I'll send them those tracks, and then I usually end up adding in like one or two wild cards. So for this last release with Exploited, I had added in a track called Grown Ups, which was just kind of this weird, chunky, I don't know, didn't kind of fit anywhere in my head type of track. And then When, which was like really inspired. I don't know if you know the artist Soundstream out of Germany. Just really deep, heady, you know, been around forever, deep house stuff that I've had on vinyl for, years and years now. And that was the track When, which was really inspired by basically that sound, like very loopy, very MPC, almost lo-fi-ish sound. Those were kind of the two add-ons to what I thought would be like perfect for the label. So I had 3 or 4 that I thought would work great with the label, and kind of these 2 wild cards.
Almost like B-sides.
Almost like, yeah. I mean, I felt that they were very strong tracks nonetheless.
Totally.
But
well, some of the B-sides end up being like, because you never know what's going to
the bigger ones,
hit, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it just shows how like off my barometer is. But they ended up taking kind of the 2 wild cards that I almost threw in last minute to be like, oh, maybe they'll like these as well too. So, so that was one of my most recent releases. In fact, the track Grown Ups has been charting really well on Beatport. I think it's still getting some love out there. there was some really good support from Danny Howard on BBC One.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was in England this past time, it was kind of like it was really fun to wake up to tweets saying like, you know, your track's on BBC One, and for like dance music in America, like without launching into this big spiel, but maybe we have some time. You know, it is now part of our culture. It's now part of our nightlife, but we were predominantly rock and roll. You know, nightclubs really most of the time had hip hop music into it, like as like the staple of music for, you know, since the raves died down in the late 90s, early 2000s. So we had this era of a lot of people growing up without dance music being like part of our culture. It slipped so far back on the underground. Go over to England, go over to Spain, go to Europe. It's never really left their vocabulary. It's never really left their culture, at least how I gather it. And so you have these stations like BBC One, which are their pop stations and their most popular stations, their biggest stations, that have never really stopped playing this music. Right. So knowing that and seeing that being such a big part of their culture, to have my music played alongside all the other artists that I love on such a big platform, it's humbling, man. It was like, it was a really cool experience for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know what you mean. You know, up until I want to say like really 2001 or so, 2002, it seemed like you know, the clubs were just filled with hip hop and rock and that sort of thing. Lots of bands, and then I'm not sure what made the switch, but I know it was kind of right around the time like Cascade and Deadmau5 did that track, and it got really popular. Pandora kind of became a thing, and then I think maybe that just was, especially with Pandora, it was like now they had this streaming service that was feeding you these other like-minded tracks, right? Where before that, it really wasn't like that. It was like, you know, you were downloading MP3s and you were still kind of, you know, going
left
around
up to
on
your own devices to find this stuff.
Exactly right. And so, you know, with the kind of birth of streaming, I mean, it changed what was being played in the nightclubs, you know, and now it's like it's kind of flipped. Now it's like if you want to find hip hop, there's kind of a select few places, you know, rock, you know, you got Slim's right here across the street.
Oh,
and,
cool.
You know, what's the Bottom of the Hill and stuff like that. I mean, there's plenty of rock places still and hip hop places.
Yeah, for sure.
But it does feel like kind of the nightclubs are filled more with dance, electronic music of any different variety. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think we, you know, as like standard middle of the road house artists or tech house or even techno, we owe quite a bit to kind of that time period where, like you said, Cascade and Deadmau5 to like these mid 2000s era, where electro house got really, really big. And, you know, for the friends I have in this industry, you know, all these old school dudes have been doing this since the 90s. I mean, they've always continued to tour, but like, you know, that was a really slow period for all of them.
Yeah.
So
because they weren't making electro house and they didn't really want to just jump on the bandwagon, right?
Yeah, of course not. And I mean, especially when you're known for a certain style, like Todd Terry's a close friend of mine, and like when you're known to be like the house god, to kind of make a pivot and all of a sudden start doing electro house is kind of unheard of. However, like I said, I think we owe a lot to that time period, to Avicii, to you know, Swedish House Mafia. As much as I might not enjoy the music and sit and listen to it and like have it on in my car with like candy bracelets on or like a tank top or a hat that says bro.
Just hide this candy bracelet.
Yeah, excuse me. But no, but like we owe a lot to that music for bringing it back into the forefront of a lot of people's minds, and to bringing it back and making club culture that much stronger, because I think what ended up happening is people heard the music again for the first time and were introduced back into dance music, since it had kind of gotten pushed underground for so long that we had this huge resurgence of the music in America. And then I think the people who really did enjoy the music, and people like us, you know, the people who always did dig and want to see like what else these genres have to offer, they did so. And they kind of like, you know, as a result of that music being so big, there was a big thrust in popularity again for you know, real like classic house, tech house, techno, and it's been a really good thing for the scene here in America, man. I mean, it's partially responsible in almost bringing me back into this music. I was lucky enough to kind of catch this like second wave of the rave movement in America, so think I was still probably in high school in the late 90s, and I was had an opportunity to go see my first raves. This is on the East Coast, like Connecticut and New York, and it was mind-blowing to go see drum and bass shows. Like I had started playing music when I was about 13, 14 years old, and I was already doing bar gigs by 14 or 15. So I got started pretty early with everything, and then dipping my toe into the electronic music production scene, probably as a result of the raves and everything like that. And yeah, it's kind of really come full circle for America, for myself and everything. But yeah, that the early 2000s, mid 2000s period, like you said with Pandora, is like you were hearing music like Alex Metric, and there was all these great like Phoenix remixes and stuff like that, and even Skrillex and all this other stuff that to me it was very exciting to see all this music come back around again.
Right.
And we had just spoken about it before the interview. You know, it's like you have people like Skrillex who, you know, basically just on a laptop with Ableton were creating these like mind-blowing sounds and soundscapes and sound design with like essentially no gear.
Right.
And it was radical, man. It was a good time for music in the States, and then, like I said, it like really brought a lot of these artists who've been around for already 10, 20 years at that point, like back into the limelight. And, you know, thankfully I have a career based off of a lot of that popularity.
Right. Totally. So. Yeah. I mean, you know, especially when you look at like festival culture and what that's become. I mean, you know, Burning Man's been around for, you know, way longer than the period we're talking about. You know, I think, you know, late 80s, something like that,
wow.
You know.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. I think, I can't remember what number they're on, but it's definitely been around for a long time. And, you know, these festivals just popping up kind of, you know, out of nowhere seemingly, and a lot of them. And there's never a shortage of people that, you know, end up showing up. You know, you've got, you know, just here, you know, in our area, we've got like Northern Nights, you've got Lightning in a Bottle, you've got Burning Man, although some people would cringe at you calling it a festival, but whatever. There's music and people, so.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then you've got like Shambhala, and you've got like all the, you know, and then Dirty Bird, and just so many of them. And that's just out here and, you know, up north in Canada. The East Coast has their own. You've got Ultra, you know, and then all of UK, and it's really, I mean, electronic music culture in general is just thriving. You know what I mean?
Big time. And you touched on Dirty Bird, and that was like a big light bulb moment for me too. Being in New York and seeing how this label was able to not only create a sound, cultivate a certain group of artists, but then kind of take this, you know, moving mobile festival to all these different cities in America. I remember going to it in Williamsburg and Brooklyn probably like 5 or 6 years ago now, and like seeing the interaction with people, seeing, you know, people showing up with like all their branded merchandise and their own signs, and just how like voraciously into the music these people were. It was powerful, man. Like, again, maybe not my favorite style of music, but their impact of what they're doing, like brand wise, and the way they've like curated their sound and their artists, it's impressive, dude.
Yeah,
big time.
I mean, people shape their whole existences and personas off music genres a lot of time. You know, something I've noticed is
completely
just going through like Instagram and Twitter, and you know, you'll see people on their headline bio, it says, you know, trance, or it says drum and bass. It's like they're that passionate about it to where that's their leading thing. It's like, oh, you know,
totally.
If we're hanging out, we're listening to drum and bass, whether you like it or not. There's like a meme that's going around. It's like, you know, when someone's trapped in your car, it's like, and you force them to listen to.
And you have the aux cable.
You have the aux cable, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that growing up big time. I mean, what the music that we listened to, like let's say in the 90s in high school, at least on the East Coast, like you said, it really almost delineated what friend group you were in.
Yeah.
If you listen to punk rock,
yeah,
you know, you were in a certain group of friends. Or if you listened to the music, you automatically had a built-in group of friends.
Right.
Same thing for hip-hop. You know, I remember specifically as I was starting to get into more like the trip hop and the drum and bass stuff, like I said, in the late 90s, it really drew me to a group of people that were like-minded and also like the music too. And yeah, growing up, I think that becomes such a big part of like your persona. And now with social media, like you said, you're able to like carry that on into your 20s and 30s.
Right.
For better or for worse, I guess.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yeah.
I mean, I'd hate to think that if I only listen to trance, that I'd only have a certain group of friends, you know. But you know, I don't really like a sense of like almost tribalism with it.
Yeah, yeah.
I see it a lot in New York. I see a little bit less of a crossover between these genres, at least in like the electronic music scene there. It's like if you're kind of a techno kid, you only go to these certain events by these certain promoters, and a lot of times at these certain clubs.
Yeah.
And then if you're a house guy, you only, you know, same thing. And a lot of other cities that I spend time in the world, I don't see that much segregation between it. I mean, if you go to Ibiza, it's like you're gonna go to whatever night as long as the artist you like is there.
Right.
I mean, there's a little bit of like, oh, I'm not gonna go to, you know, maybe like a Defected event if you want to go to like a hardcore, like techno amnesia type event. But like,
Sure.
you know, there's still much more bleed through, I think.
Totally.
In New York, it seems like the scene is a bit more fragmented.
Yeah.
And a little less crossover. San Francisco, however, I feel like you guys do have a really good, I mean, this club specifically too, I feel like there's a really good crossover. Like you'll have an audience that really likes the music, and it means a little bit less to them if it's Adam Beyer or Claude Von Stroke. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, I guess it goes without saying diversity is kind of built in, you know, de facto here in San Francisco.
True.
As it is in New York and LA and stuff, and, you know, a lot of places now, especially. But, you know, I think you're right. Like, I've found myself, you know, wandering into DNA Lounge a number of times. DNA Lounge is very versatile.
Yep.
In what they play. And, like, you know, I think one of my first actual like club nights out ever was a goth industrial techno night.
Not to put too many labels on it, but
You're
I
right.
get you.
Yes, yeah. And it's very much like a niche genre thing. You know what I mean? You go there, they're fully goth.
Yep.
The big, you know, platform boots with the buckles and
Giant wide leg
giant
band.
black pants and the crazy hair.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I'd go to that.
piercings. It was a great time.
Yeah.
A great time, you know, and it's, you're not going to get, I guess, if you're going expecting, you know, a Dirty Bird vibe, you're not going to get that, of course. But you are going to get a very curated, enjoyable vibe. You just have to be kind of open-minded enough to enjoy it for what it is, right?
Exactly. And I kind of think that speaks to any sort of underground music culture in general. I think what people start to look for when they're veering off of like mainstream pop music, which is probably, let's say, half the people in America, like just get sick of what's on the radio, sick of what's being spoon-fed to them, and people like us start digging. You start digging through hip-hop. And I think that kind of the biggest caveat to that is people just want quality.
Right.
So if I ever went to a hardcore industrial goth night,
Yeah.
I would just want to hear the better representation of that music. I would want to hear the quality side of
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
And it kind of the same thing goes for me. I still listen to a lot of old school hip hop, and if I do so, I want to listen to quality music of that genre.
Right.
I listen to a pretty wide array of you know, different dance music genres. You know, I'm a huge fan of techno. Really love the tech house stuff. It works so well in clubs.
Yeah.
I make actually all of these genres, which is probably to a fault at this point. But I just want to hear and make and listen to and go out and experience like the quality end of that spectrum. And I think that that's like really what people are probably more concerned with going out to these random nights, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think the diversity is built in much more in San Francisco than it is in a lot of other cities in America.
Yeah, I mean, we're just a cultural melding pot, really. You know, it's kind of always been like that, and you know, with roots in the you know, free love movement and all that stuff, and you know,
It's here still, man.
It's here. You know,
could experience it. Like I see it firsthand. Like I was actually, there's a weird part of the story too. I was in a Grateful Dead cover band for probably 4 years.
No kidding.
Where that's all we played.
What did you play? What part?
I played electric bass in that.
Sick.
That was the Phil Lesh, yeah.
Wow.
And so my vocabulary with that is pretty diverse too. So when I come to San Francisco, like I see that it's still here. I've had friends who've just moved from the East Coast to come here just to basically be homeless, to kind of experience that lifestyle. And Not that I'm recommending it to anybody, but you know, it's still here, and it adds to the culture big time.
It's interesting because, you know, a trending train of thought right now and meme in San Francisco especially is you know, tech is taking over, and, you know, San Francisco is losing its culture and that sort of thing. And I definitely think that there's some merit to that, but kind of surprisingly, there's the heart hasn't really left. It's like it's, you know, you can feel it when you're in this room, especially, and rooms like this all around the city. You know, it's still there. You might have to like seek it out a little bit more. It's not going to just be, you know, it's going to be less in the FiDi and more in other parts and that sort of thing. But it's interesting, you know.
I think that happens to a certain degree everywhere. I mean, the progression of technology and life and, you know, just the world in general is going to happen no matter what. Yeah. But you're not going to get rid of people's like core fundamental like values and needs. And I think a big part of that is being able to go out and dance and enjoy yourself on weekends and have a nightlife and have some culture. So I think no matter how much like the Ubers and the Facebook of the world are going to like infiltrate your city and part of your culture, I don't think you'll ever lose that. And like I have to remind myself of that a lot while making music, because you know, it's easy to forget that we're creating music that is ultimately escapism for people. And a lot of us will over intellectualize that part of it. And like, trust me, I look at it as much of an art form as anybody else, but like if I could at least kind of maintain like this thought in the back of my head that this music is for people to party to, to drink to, to escape to go take drugs to be in a dark ass room at 3 a.m. on a Friday or Saturday night. Like if I could hold on to that, it's like it helps me make better music. And again, that's such like a fundamental thing in people, especially, you know, probably almost even more so around a tech-based culture, because it's a lot more 9-to-5 people who really, really want to cut loose on the weekend. So I think that having places like this, having clubs like this, having this style of music, even if people don't really have much relation to it throughout the week like we do, they're still going to look to escape to it.
Absolutely. And even if, you know, escaping after the 9 to 5, but, you know, even I know so many of these, you know, tech people that are in their cubicle listening to DJ mixes on YouTube. You know what I mean? Kind of trying to escape a little bit, you know, while they're doing their normal grind, you know. And it's funny, I was just listening to a YouTube talk by Steve Duda. He was talking about, you know, creating plugins and that sort of thing in Serum. And he mentioned dub techno. And I had never heard of dub techno.
It's amazing.
I know, and I popped on a dub techno mix on YouTube, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. And he mentioned it. You know, he was saying it's kind of because it's a lower rung, you know, genre, I suppose, in popularity. A lot of the stuff there, like many things, like drum and bass, and you know, all these kind of a little more obscure genres, are just kind of art for the sake of art. You know, because you know you're not going to get a whole lot of attention from it. You know, like the drum and bass is a really good one because it's so polarizing. The people that love drum and bass are just like myself included. I have this part of me that just I can't give it up. I love drum and bass so much. Same, right?
Same, yeah.
And but it's not really all that commercially viable, and I think it's because the tempo and the speed of it. And then it kind of, you know, we know that it has this kind of like half step, kind of like dubstep, where it, you know,
we could almost slow it down in our minds.
Exactly, and you can sway to it like.
It's, you know, like a relentless BPM. Yeah,
right. It might as well be like hardstyle to them. You know what I mean? Which is funny because hardstyle, even like I get lost on hardstyle. Even myself being a producer and a DJ, you know. Not knocking hardstyle at all.
No,
please,
of course not. Any genre, really, for that matter.
Yeah, no.
But like some genres are almost how should I say this? They're just more difficult to kind of dip your toe into the water.
Right.
I think for me personally, it was drum and bass and it was jungle that kind of bit me initially, along with like the funky house stuff, and a lot of it was like coming out of here, out of San Francisco. But yeah, you hear, if you just put on a drum and bass record for somebody who has really no experience with the electronic music world, it's jarring.
Yeah.
It could be jarring. It's aggressive.
Yep.
It's quick. It's people don't know how to naturally move to it, and for a lot of people, especially if it's like cut up amen breaks, like a little bit more towards like the jungle side of things, like to them they're just hearing noise and like looped noise, and it drives some people fucking crazy.
Right.
But if you put on like a house record, you know, that has pianos and vocals and, you know, almost a little bit more of like a regular song structure to it that people are used to from the radio, people could bite into that a little
Absolutely
easier. And that kind of speaks, I think, really highly to club culture because, you know, well, what is more popular? You know, it is house and techno and tech house at this point. A lot of times there's more vocals. It's a little bit more accessible, but I think, you know, the underground dance music world in general for a lot of people is like it's like a club, you know? So if you have no relation to it and you're working tech all week and then you walk into one of these rooms on a Saturday at 2 a.m., you feel like you're almost missing something.
Right.
Like you're not part of the club.
Yeah.
And it almost felt like that to me a little bit at first until I had some really good experiences with it. And I think I was able to connect to the music a little bit more, but, yeah, it feels like, I mean, it is a club, but it feels like a club, you know, of people that me and you are talking about this all week and that we know something that other people don't. And I think that little part of it, like, almost turns people off in a big time to it, but still keeps it underground enough. Like, no matter how popular it'll get, I think that's like a bit of a ceiling for it, too.
Yeah, right.
That people just don't know how to experience it. And I think what ends up happening if people, you know, come once or twice and they do have a good experience with it, I think that they see that it's like, you know, almost like the hippie movement and the Haight-Ashbury movement from like the late 60s, mid to late 60s, where it's like, no, it's like kind of free love in here. It's like, come in, it's hedonism.
It's
like,
the most open club ever. It's like, you know, you want to be a part? Like, just all you got to do is participate.
Just show up.
Just show up.
You don't even have to talk to anybody.
Right.
You don't even have to dance.
Yeah, no.
Just try to enjoy it.
I've seen that people that just come and sit in the corner and kind of soak it in and, you know,
experience the music a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine too. You know, however it is you want to get your experience in, you know? Yeah,
for sure, man. It's I think once people get that, and like I said, I almost felt a little bit like that at first myself because you know, it is a vast culture too on top of it.
Oh, it's massive. Yeah.
And you know, although it's a pretty new musical genre compared to, I guess, even rock and stuff, you know, they had a 30-40 year jump on like house and techno and stuff, but the culture is really vast and really deep. And I think the people who end up being lifelong fans are the people who kind of are just as interested in that as they are in the music, and they'll dig a little bit. They'll watch documentaries. They'll go back and listen to Carl Craig or whoever, you know. Yeah, it's cool, and it was a thing that brought me further into this music. There was that culture, and on top of it, the people who created this, you know, apart from the people who have left us, like Frankie Knuckles and stuff, like there's these guys. I'm friends with these guys. They're still out. They're still playing. You could see them at this club. You could see them in San Francisco, New York, everywhere. Like, you know, Kenny Dope was just here last weekend, and I've known Kenny for a while, and he's like intimidatingly amazing producer and DJ.
Right.
And his back catalog is like would dwarf anybody else's, but like, you know, he was a huge reason of why this music stuck around, and he helped develop the sound of it, him and Louis Vega with Masters at Work, and it's like, these guys are still playing. It's amazing.
Right.
You just go see them. Like, you can learn about American history, but you can't go fucking hang out with Abraham Lincoln.
Exactly, right, yeah.
But with this, it's here. It's here for everybody to go see. Love that.
Who's the Abe Lincoln of electronic music?
Abe Lincoln. I shouldn't say. I can just get yelled at by somebody. I call these guys old all the time.
Right.
I'm not a fucking teenager myself, but...
Let's just call it Tiesto. That's safe.
Yeah, exactly.
He's far enough out of reach to where he won't mind.
He won't show up.
Good old Abe.
Pants us or something on the live stream.
Yeah. No, that's something that I really love about electronic music. You know, compared to other genres of music, is people's willingness and passion to dig and find stuff constantly. It's like just like we were talking about with being spoon-fed radio music and that sort of thing. It's kind of one train of mind which is fine. I mean, everybody can be whoever they want to be, but some people are busy enough doing whatever it is they are doing. Like maybe if you're a doctor or something, for example, you just don't have time to do quite literally anything else.
Yeah,
and you like music, but that's about where it ends. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
And you just want to listen to whatever it is that's convenient. That's perfectly fine and there for you. But there's such a growing massive number of people that are passionate about like finding what their flavor is of electronic music, different from rock or
I think it
or,
falls into the thing we were talking about before. Like it's such a big part of your persona, who you are as a person.
Yeah.
I mean, for the 9-to-5 office culture, it's like you'd be surprised sometimes to see some of these people that Jan in accounting is the girl that you saw at the hardcore industrial goth techno night. Right. And it really it defines people's like personalities so much. And I think it's really important. I don't like to think, like I said, like of any sort of like tribalism where you're over here and I'm over here, but like it keeps people, like you said, like pulling and pushing and searching and like expanding this culture and expanding the music and giving people like us opportunities to have a genre that's ever moving and is in demand, even though if it is underground, so we could create better music and new music and more music. Because if people just like weren't into like club culture, or they weren't into like going to nightclubs, and we would all just be making art for the sake of making art. We'd all be dub techno, kind of where we would be at, And I think a lot of guys like us would probably still continue to make the music.
Yep.
I feel fortunate enough that like I do have a career as a result of this and of like the resurgence and popularity here in America, but I've had to like step back and question why I'm doing it a lot over the last 3, 4, 5 years. I think as any artist does, you're beating your head against the wall to finish tracks and hustle for, releases and, just even any sort of involvement in social media for me can be a chore at times. So like I've stepped back and been like, why am I doing this?
Right.
There's like a really good documentary called What Difference Does It Make? I think it was by Red Bull Music Academy. And it was kind of questioning like, this question, like, why are we doing this? Why are we creating the art? But I always kind of like come back to the example, if you put $10 million into my bank account right now, what would I do? I'd go find a studio and
do the same thing.
Start working on tracks.
Right.
So,
you might have a couple new pieces of gear.
Yeah, a couple new pieces of gear, and I'd maybe take a little more time to like go to yoga or something, and like maybe eat, but I'd be making music for sure. Yeah,
start. You'd officially afford Whole Foods.
Yeah, I'm almost on layaway.
I mean, for me, I again kind of the same people I was talking about. A lot of them tend to a lot of people like the classics. They want to hear the classics. They want to hear the stuff that they're familiar with, and it makes them feel good. And they listening to that same track that they heard 20 years ago on the radio or 10 years ago on the radio kind of brings them back. For me, I'm the kind of person that constantly wants new stuff. I constantly need like new and exciting stuff for inspiration as an artist, but also just new stuff to listen to in my car and new sources. It's the same. I don't really watch a ton of news. My news world is YouTube and Sonic State and like all the and finding these new genres really a lot of times too, like as you grow and you kind of evolve as a person and listening to these new genres, like it a lot of times it's kind of telling too. Like I had this experience when I found Bonobo and Tycho. I think Bonobo first and then Tycho. And, I had been listening to, it was shortly after the time of, electro and dubstep. And then I had started listening to the Dirty Bird stuff and more tech house and even progressive. And then I found down tempo. And I was like, oh, I've never thought of myself as a down tempo guy. Yeah.
I'm always hyper. Yeah.
I'm always, but now here I am, like, I love down tempo. And I really, that especially, of course, you're not, it's, again, very it's strange because I have been to festivals where Tycho and Bonobo have been the headliners, you know? So it's like, while it's a down-tempo thing, it's still, you can still have, hey, Mikey, you can still have them headline these festivals and have them be, you know, enough energy to keep a crowd of, you know, 10,000 or 30,000 rocking, you know?
Yeah, completely. I also think, too, that with any of, like, a bigger festival act or somebody who's able to kind of transition from, you know, having a big catalog of down-tempo music, it's kind of funny to see, like, anybody from, like, Steve Aoki, who does electro house stuff, to, like, you know, all these artists, basically, the point I'm trying to make is when they get on stage in front of a festival, they usually end up playing house, and techno in the 120 BPM range. Yeah. So you could kind of see why this has become, like, the dominant, like, Mikey Payton. Like, why this has become, like, the dominant, like, you know, main vehicle for people, too. Because, like you said, like, I've seen Bonobo, too, and it's, like, I knew him from, like, all this, like, more down-tempo, like, really deep, musical, bizarre, and, like, complex music.
Kind of more hip-hoppy, even, too.
Yeah, right? For sure. Yeah. But then, like, you know, you put them behind these decks, and, like, people are, like, tend to play house, tech house, and techno, like, in the 120 range. So, it kind of... It makes me happy. It lets me know that, like, I'm at least, as far as digging into a pool of audience, like, that this represents, and the 120 like BPM range, like, really represents, like, the bigger part of the market. You know, kind of getting back into just making art for art's sake. This is, like, house and tech house and techno and disco, whatever I, like, put my mind to making. You know, I do it because I'm interested in it the most, and I love it the most, but it's kind of nice to know on the back end of that there is a big audience for it, too, you know? Totally. And I love the down-tempo stuff. Like, I think I got DJ Shadow's Introducing album, which was... I got it early, so it was around 96 or 97 when it came out, and I just started to get into Daft Punk. I think Homework came around, like, around 97, too, if not 96, and... But yeah, like, I always loved it. I always loved breaks and breakbeat, and, you know, to hear that music at that time too. Like, I know we're both, like, tech guys, but this was the beginning of it for me. I was just learning music production, and I hear, like, the track "Building Steam with a Grain of Salt," which is, like, the opening track on DJ Shadow's Introducing, and I did not know, in my head, with what I knew from music at the time, how the fuck he had taken 2 seconds from a record and manipulated it into an 11-minute track where the beat gets cut up a million ways from Sunday. Like, for me, I was like, you know, especially coming from, like, a rock music, you have a guy in the back that played the beat. Like, that was it. Right. Like, but to hear a dude who took some record and was able to manipulate that for, like, you know, to build an amazing piece of artwork off of it, it was mind-blowing. I mean, you know, come to find out that I'm sure he was using MPC 2000, whatever he was using.
Handful of records.
Yeah. I mean, especially somebody like DJ Shadow was just, like, an ultimate crate digger. Right. But, yeah, that was a huge thing for me. So downtempo, like, really represents a big part of, like, my path along, like, music production. Yeah. Because I was always just so interested in, like I said, I was in a band at that point, and I played bass. So I wasn't necessarily writing music, you know, and I just started to learn. Going back as, like, to 95, 96, I just started to learn a little bit about music production. It was still such like early times for people. You know, everyone, like, really thought that to create music you just needed a big studio, 5 guys with, like, who all played instruments, and, you know, that was kind of my, like, traditional thought pattern on how music was created. So to hear that, to see that it was one guy that somehow manipulated all these sounds into, like, this artwork was amazing for me, and that really set me off and running on how, just to figure out how the fuck this happened. How did somebody do this at home, you know?
That's really what sparked my entire career as well, was that curiosity of hearing Introducing and a lot of the, you know, Grouch and Eli records and Blockhead and, you know, listening to this stuff and just being kind of having my mind blown, being like, wow, this stuff is so crazy and out there, but like dope and like heartfelt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then flipping through the what's it called, the booklet that comes in the front of the CD from like Grouch and Eli's records, and seeing that they, thank God they listed the equipment that they used for each song. And I saw on there, MPC.
For all you millennials, there was a little piece of paper that came in your album or your CD or your record, and it told who did what on the album.
Right. And now all we have
lost,
is,
man.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist anymore.
No. That would be cool though if you could click on the thumbnail on a MP3 and it would flip over and there'd be some like more info there. Or maybe we could start putting it into the MP3 tags, like the metadata.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually just filling some out for myself yesterday, and it'd be really boring now.
It would.
It'd be really boring. Like it would be like, and on computers is
right.
Scott
On computers.
So
I always tell people I play the computer. They're like, "Oh, what kind of music do you make?" I play the computer.
I had a fear recently because I've been an instrumentalist for 20 plus years at this point, 25 years, that I am losing my chops on that, because that was something that was so important to me, to be like an incredible bass player and to know how to play guitar, that if I got thrust into a band situation, I could sit there and play. And I'm sure I still could with keys and bass and stuff like that, and even guitar if I had to, but I have this irrational little fear that because I play computers and I play drum synthesizers and that a little bit of that's gone. But did you play music before you got into, did you play any traditional instruments? Yeah,
so I played a little bit of saxophone, a little bit of piano. I mean, we're talking little kid recitals type stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was in a children's choir that actually was fairly notable.
Nice.
We were one of the best in the nation, and sang at Carnegie Hall, and that's kind of where ended my singing. Well, and then
went out on top.
I hit puberty.
Yeah, okay.
So forced out to a certain degree, But yeah, I mean, all that stuff. While it might not I do some of my own vocals and stuff, but not even but nothing I would say that my experience in choir and that sort of thing really kind of affected less my own vocals, because most of them are just silly house vocals and stuff like that. Yeah. But more stage presence,
It's an amazing thing to have.
Yeah, and my ear. So I mean, I've kind of always had a good ear for pitch. My grandma used to tell me, because I used to as a kid I would do these little mini performances and stuff in front of the family, and my grandma's always like, "He's got perfect pitch." And
do you have perfect pitch?
Not perfect pitch if you play the note, I can be A sharp, But as far as being able to hear the differences between something being sharp and flat, even just an oscillator.
Really?
I'm very, very sensitive to that.
It's impressive.
Stuff. Yeah.
It's an amazing skill to have. I think that's missing a lot with electronic music producers these days. There is kind of no musical theory behind a lot of people's productions. You don't always need it. Most of my favorite producers don't know how to play keys or couldn't delineate between intervals between notes, but I think, to me personally, it makes for more interesting music, because these aren't people that are stuck within confines. It actually took me a big shift. So I went to university for jazz performance.
Oh, nice.
So when I'd come back to start making electronic music again, I was thinking in terms of musical theory. So if I was writing piano chords, F sharp minor 7 doesn't relate to my D minor 9, so I was constantly playing within these confines that didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
And so for people who are a lot freer, who don't have any sort of traditional music background, they're able to kind of just again, art for art's sake.
Yeah.
They're able to make cool sounds and patterns and grooves, and it took a lot for me to kind of untrain
absolutely
my brain and my musical palette from that.
I had the same thing, because I went to school at Expression, and it was they teach you all these. It was more of a rock, pop kind of scenario as far as their teaching goes. There was electronic music and kind of hip hop, but it was a little bit of an afterthought. Just having to unlearn a lot of the official techniques, and stuff like that. Like, don't ever put a compressor on a hi-hat and stuff like that.
Like,
and,
what?
Yeah.
Put overdrive on it, sucker.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And just, stuff like that. Like, kind of regaining the innocence and explorative mentality that you have when you first start getting in, the first synth or sampler even that you get, or drum machine, and just plinking around and creating these sounds like a kid would, picking up a new Lego set, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a direct correlation between that new toy and the new toy you had as you were a kid.
Right.
To be able to get like a drum machine like a TR8, which is a fairly inexpensive piece of gear now, but has all of the classic sounds from house and tech house, and you could even get expansion packs. So it's got like a 606, 707, 727, 808, and a 909. Okay, cool. There's all of your dance music drums in one box, and you could be a kid.
Yeah.
You could be a kid and go at it with the same palette that like really created these like genres, and in that like explorative way. And again, knowing what I knew about music, and by the time I got a drum machine like that, knowing what I did just about house music and techno, and everybody from Jeff Mills to to Kenny Dope, and how they use these machines, I was almost like still locked into like a paradigm of, this is where you place your kick, this is where you place your hi-hat, this is where the clap goes, this is where the snare goes to do that shuffle pattern. And it took more to untrain myself from that than it did to like kind of learn this new toy.
Right.
And again, this is just my experience, but then I almost I have this sense of admiration when I see, like, if I have a friend that has no musical background start plunking in stuff because it feels and it sounds cool to them. I'm like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like, it's freeing.
They're not thinking about all the things that you should be doing to make X, Y, and Z genre and make the mix sound good and all that stuff. And
yeah, not at all.
Yeah, it's this weird thing where you kind of, nothing, and then you spend all this time learning, and then you kind of reach this apex of learning and learnedness, and then you kind of have to retain the important stuff there to keep your mixes and stuff,
Unlearn
but to unlearn the things that are, and shed the things that are unnecessary or harmful, right? Like
completely
kind of harmful to your own creative process, and that's something I do often and talk about all the time on this podcast, is kind of tricking my brain with various techniques and
like
things.
That.
Yeah, because it's just the way my brain works. Is I've been doing this recent thing where I had kind of hit a creative wall where I kept telling myself that I needed like vocals or this grand idea to like make a song. Like that's like, every song had to have this like theme and it would be very well thought out. And then I kind of recognized that, and I was like, no, wait, this is silly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 or 3 pieces of gear, and I'm going to purposefully make vocalless house music, and I'm just going to give myself a very short amount of time to do each one, because that's something else I do, is I tend to like nitpick and finesse. And
don't do that.
Yeah.
don't do that. Yeah.
Right. And so these little tricks have just, blown the creative blocks, out of the way. And I've kind of been more productive than I've been in a long time.
Creativity within confines.
Yeah,
it's huge to me.
Right.
At this stage, like, I've been able to produce full time for the last 5 years, and at first I would keep these insane hours where I would work 18-hour days for 2 weeks in a row, and I loved it. Again, give me $1 million and I'm going to be doing it anyways. However, what became like hurtful to the process was that nitpicking you were talking about, that overanalyzation of stuff. And so I guess I've been able to kind of curtail that like over attenuation to my music and to my sounds and to my mixes by giving myself that time limit. So the way I work at this point, unless it's a track that I really believe in and an idea I really want to see through to the end, I really only give myself 2 or 3 hours to finish a track completely.
Right.
And what you said, by limiting the amount of gear, limiting the amount of like maybe samples that you're pulling from, only helps. I had a unique experience where I'd been traveling around the world so much for a couple years, and I found myself in England for about 3 months with one keyboard which was my Korg mini log.
Mm-hmm.
Love that thing.
It's great.
Little utility workhorse.
Yeah.
Can do everything with it. I think I had my OP1, but I've generally only used that thing as a MIDI controller because it sounded like shit. Sorry, teenage engineering, but call a spade a spade.
Fix the output. It'll be good.
Yeah. Or just make a MIDI controller with no brains in it.
Right.
Sell it for the 10th of the price, please.
Right.
But so that, and I may have had my TR8. I can't even remember, but I'm sure I didn't really use it. And I was able to, like, within a 2 or 3 month period, I easily 35 to 40 songs that most of which have gotten signed, and it was a light bulb went off, man. Like I remember sitting down at first when I just started getting paid to do like major label remixes, and I was like, wow, somehow like I'm a fucking professional. This is amazing. And being able to sit down, and it was really overwhelming to me to have every color in the world to paint with, because nowadays it's like you could get Ableton from a friend, you can get a bajillion plugins from some Russian file sharing site, and you could have a fully kitted out MacBook in like a matter of like a half a day. And you could have every sound you'd ever need to make anything with. Roland has this amazing subscription service called Roland Cloud. Have you seen that yet?
I've heard of these cloud services, yeah.
It's amazing. You can get every Roland keyboard and drum machine they've pretty much ever historically offered. So you could be like loaded to the gills with sounds and like palettes. And I remember sitting down at first with all this shit in front of me and being like, okay, I have every color to paint with. What the fuck do I paint?
Right.
How do I start painting?
Right.
Where do I even go? Like it was overwhelming to me. And I think that having had that realization early on when, being able to make music full time for myself and to release to the world, like it really shaped how I curate my sounds, my plugins, my gear, and like you were saying, that creativity within Confines is an amazing thing. I remember having a Dave Smith Mofo X4 and I think a Prophet 8 sitting on my desk in my studio for probably about a year and a half, and it was like I pined over having this gear because we're like gearheads, we're nerds. I want this shit. Like it's cool. It's like they're awesome pieces of gear, man.
Right.
I just want technology in front of me.
Yep.
And they sat to the point where I would feel guilty, try to put it on a track, waste loads of time, have it not really be the sound that I wanted, or, if you really want to get granular into it, I don't like the Curtis chips from like,
the filters.
Yeah. And I don't like the voice chips necessarily in like, a Prophet series compared to like, maybe the OB6 or even like the what the VCOs sound like, and even in the mini log. Like
Completely valid though.
Yeah, it is. And when you're like early on in production too, you those aren't things you weigh very heavily into like what you're doing. You just like you see this thing like, oh fucking, I don't know, name somebody like Sven Voth had that synthesizer, so I'm gonna buy it too.
Right.
And I remember these things sitting on my desk for months and like over a year and like never really using them. And it was so liberating for me to actually sell them and not have them.
Yep.
And to experience music from like a different perspective where I didn't have those things like eyeballing me from the corner of the desk.
It frees you up a little bit. Frees up some
big time.
Yeah, and some a little bit of a tinge of guilt, I suppose. You're like, I spent all this money, I should be using it.
There's definitely that. Yeah, completely. I mean, it's like you could buy a car for the price of those two keyboards.
God. Yeah, I tend to buy and try and then sell if I really don't end up using it all that much. I mean, I've had a bunch of things. I had the Teenage Engineering OP1. I love that thing, and I will get another one. But at the time, there was
that too. But it's like it's like when you break up with somebody, you're like, well, maybe we'll get back together. And I'm kind of like, well, was she right for me?
Right.
I don't think so.
You remember all the heartbreak? And late nights arguing,
yelling at the thing for like being noisy.
Yeah.
I'm not here to bitch about I like the company.
I'm seeing a correlation here between.
Yeah, mine broke like 4 times. I kept sending that thing back to Sweden.
Really?
I almost had to buy it a passport.
Oh my God. It's got all the stamps in the world.
Yeah, never mind. Moving on.
Yeah. But yeah, there's definitely something to be said for keeping stuff that you recognize has a very real position in your workforce there in your most people have limited space in their studio, right?
Correct.
And for me, I sold the OP1, and I definitely made some really cool things with it, and it was maybe the most fun piece of equipment to I've ever had to just
For sure, man.
tinker around with and make stuff with. But I almost literally dollar for dollar sold that and bought a Roland Integra 7, which I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a workhorse. It's the workhorse that the OP1 wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Whereas I have this
completely different side of the spectrum for sure.
I mean, completely pristine audio quality, really well.
Very utilitarian sounds.
Yeah, multi-sampled, percussion and sitars and guitars and bass guitars and synthesizers. It's literally their flagship model.
Yeah.
And so any of those synth sounds that I could want, or I really bought it for the like a external piece of contact gear, because
something you could touch and dial in.
Well, I wanted like the ethnic sounding instruments.
Oh, like contact the sound library.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's made its way into pretty much every song I've made since then.
Totally. I had a Triton for a while for the same reason.
Yeah, Tritons are great.
And it's like kind of like we said, you kind of almost have to learn the rules before you break them. Well, this is part of like that learning the rules category. Like the OP1 and like something like a lot of maybe like the Electron pieces of gear are the break the rules side of things. And then your Tritons and your Tegras are like, you need those sounds, at least if you're trying to like fall within a specific genre. But like I kind of feel as a producer, everybody needs like a good piano sound,
absolutely,
a good bass sound,
right?
Maybe a sitar every once in a while, but to be able to have those like you said, kind of a pristine condition is like it's a really helpful tool. I think a lot of people skip out on that, on that side of the palette as far as making music.
And for me too, having it there in my rack, like kind of off to the right here, whereas like a VST like Contact is like you have this, even Ableton came out with like the favorites folders and that sort of thing, and those are super helpful. But even then, like I have all these VSTs, and sometimes like it's not as obvious to me that it's sitting there ready to be used, whereas my Integra is like staring me in the face, and I'm like, oh, at any given time I want to and should be using this thing for its vast sound library or whatever.
Totally. I always had a big problem with that too. I remember getting the Machine at first, another Native Instruments piece of gear, or Machina or whatever you want to call it, and like there's another whole piece of software you have to run in order to have that thing. It's not like a standalone drum machine. You have to launch their program to use it.
Right.
And that was a big turnoff for me because, like you said, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
I just recently started, pretty seriously using the Native Instruments stuff, and it sounds incredible. Sounds really good, polished, if not over polished. But it was always a big turnoff for me to be in one piece of software and then having to open another piece of software in order to like access sounds and stuff like that.
Right.
Rather than just click on a plugin and have that thing fire up. It's like with the Native Instruments thing, for people who don't know, it's like you have to launch like either Contact or Reactor in order to kind of have access to all the instruments that are within inside of that. So it was a bit of a turnoff for me, and I know why too. Ableton becoming such a dominant force, and Logic doing everything that it can do. Basically, you had to do what was called rewiring. I don't know if you remember that. And I used to have to, so I used Nuendo, which was a direct Pro Tools kind of like rival for a long time, and that was by Steinberg. So I would have to launch my original song project in Nuendo, and that's where I would record my audio and chop some audio, and I think do some MIDI programming. But then there was like other sounds I had to ask that I would access that I had to rewire out of Reason. So I had to like fire up Rewire, then I'd have to start Reason, and then at that point too, I was using Ableton a little bit, and this is going back to like version 3, 4, and 5, where I would have to like now rewire Ableton into, so every time I opened up a project, I would have to open it up 3 times across 3 platforms and make sure they were the right ones and the right version.
So convoluted.
It was difficult, man. And you would like, I would lose stuff all the time. The file naming structure for software wasn't really that advanced at that point too. So like, if you didn't have something like pretty specifically labeled, it would take me like hours and days sometimes to just like find a track that I wanted to like work on.
Because, of course, you named it like number 68 or something.
Or like I just went and had a burrito.
Right.
7.
Yeah.
Final.
Yeah, right.
That's a huge thing that I preach to people now. It's like naming, I do version numbers, which is always, actually, you know what? I can't even take credit for this. And this is going back to that era of like, why we might owe a little bit more to like the EDM culture than we think. I remember watching a production tutorial with David Guetta, had somehow popped up on YouTube, and he was talking about that, saving like version numbers. So if I start a project, I'll know that version 2.3 is the last one I worked on because it's the last one in the series, and that's been extremely helpful to me. I know that like Ableton's trying to do like a little bit more of an automated date thing where they're like kind of trying to make it a little bit easier for you if you need to like access some backup files and stuff like that. But doing that to me was huge.
Oh, game changer for me.
Game changer. I always name my shit right off the jump, even if I have to change it. I name it immediately.
Yep.
Because people send, like, I do some mastering for other people in the industry. Like, I have to laugh. Well, one, if I do a stems master, I'd laugh because everything's, like, untitled 1 through 17, you know, or audio, like, 46. Like, it's audio 46, and then I have to, like,
go back and rename it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. But, no, like it's been huge. It's been huge for me to label my tracks. I even color code shit. Like I want to stay organized because, like we said, learning the rules and learning these like proper ways of music production. Like I always preach to people that with organization, with learning like why and how to EQ and compress and stuff like that. I'm only doing that so when I have like a really inspired idea, I could access it and then like make it happen and make it like the audio version of what my imagination is with the least amount of impedance as possible.
Exactly.
And to have like a good structured workflow, to have good organization, to have everything kind of just all set up. Even the way I set up my studio, I'm sure you're probably similar. Like my shit ain't messy.
No.
Like I know you know where your Tegra is and you know how it's patched in. Like I have my key pieces of gear run into my sound card already ready to use. I have even the samples I have set up in my MPC are like organized. Yeah. So when I hear that, I can make it happen as quick as possible because like inspiration is fleeting. Right. And if you have to spend 30 minutes just trying to get like a piano to sound the way that you want it to sound, like the idea is going to be gone.
Right. Or if you get caught up with a plugin won't load, or or an audio file's missing, or just
I've deleted. I'll delete stuff immediately because of that. I know a lot of people were using, I think, Serum, and I know a lot of people use Serum, and I think that it was offered through Splice for like a monthly rental. I said, well, okay, cool. I don't have to buy the full plugin or worry about going to pirate it and being a good copy. Let me just do the monthly thing. I'll see if I like it. I think I used it for like 10 minutes. It crashed on me a couple times. And like I'm a computer nerd, so like wasn't anything that I was doing. And all the sounds sounded like all these bad records I didn't even like. And rather than sit there and pay for it every month, I immediately deleted it. I wrote back to Splice. I was like, could you just stop sending me emails and just like I don't even care if you keep the first. I just don't want to be like a part of it. And I'll do that with a lot of plugins. I'll do that with full sample. I'll buy a sample pack for whatever, 20, 30, 40 bucks, and I just recently started using them. I never really had been a fan of them up until like the last year and a half, maybe 2 years at the most. But if I hear stuff and I'm like, oh, cool, like this was highly rated or blah, 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 or even parts of a sample pack. If I don't like it and I don't think it's going to add to the art that I want to create, it's gone. Yeah. This is like, you always hear that like adage, like life is too short for like cheap champagne or cheap liquor or something like that. That's how I feel about my production. Like, there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much art that I could put out that I'm not going to like weigh myself down with synthesizers I'm not using or shitty plugins or sounds that like I don't feel inspired by. Right. And I could be really ruthless. I'll do that with the tracks that I make too, the individual tracks of a song. A lot of people I see at first, or if they're within their first couple years of production, they're like, oh, like I'll be like, what's with this hi-hat? You have 3 other ones. They're like, oh, well, this hi-hat was just, I wanted in this part to add to it. And I was like, okay, well, you don't need it. It's not really helping. Like, it's kind of like overproducing. And they're like, oh, well, but I spent 45 minutes on it. I'm ruthless with that.
Yeah.
I mean, not to other people's work. People could do what they want. But like, even if I spent 2 hours on, recording hardware synthesizers and automating whole things, if it's not right, if it doesn't add to the music and to the art for me, that shit's gone, man.
Yeah. Yep. I'm the same way. Because I might as well just say it every podcast. I truly believe you have endless creative ideas. And
I
so
like that.
Yeah, it's
Optimistic.
Yeah, right. Because in practice, I've felt the same way, and I've had internal struggle and turmoil over like, oh well, I spent this much time doing this and then blah blah blah, and you want to make it work, and it's like, look, just axe it, just mute it, bounce it, put it in a folder, whatever. Just add something else new on top, and then even if you don't like that one, mute it, and then maybe very quickly at an even faster clip, force yourself to make 4 new ideas.
Yeah.
And don't even stop at the third one. Make 4 or 5, even if you like one, because you might maybe number 5 is the best.
Yeah.
But you thought you liked 3. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. It's a great way to look at it, and like you never actually know if it's late at night. Everything sounds different in the morning.
Oh my God.
If it's earlier in the day, when you hear that at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, it's going to feel and sound a lot different to you. So giving yourself those options is a really good thing. It's pretty much how I end up working. In fact, I still kind of have if I have a plethora of time to work, like if I have like a week set aside for studio work, usually goes as follow. Like I get in pretty early. I'll start working 9, 10 a.m., maybe 11 the latest, and I'll work super late. 2, 3 in the morning. I'll end up beating my head against the wall creatively. Like I usually get my drums programmed and like get the vibe and get the genre kind of going immediately. But the musical ideas, I'll beat my head against the wall for hours and hours and hours until ultimately I give up. I stop getting so hypercritical about myself. I start deleting like all the shit that doesn't need to be there. And like lo and behold, like the ideas just start to kind of like formulate themselves a little bit better. And like those 2, 3, or 4 ideas musically that I've had muted sitting in the background, like one of them's probably really fucking good, and I end up like finally airing to it.
Right.
We're probably similar. Like I really care about this, probably too much, and so like I want every piece of art that I make, every song, to be really amazing sounding in a club, to have a ton of energy, to like give off an instant vibe, and it's like, so I care so much that like I almost put like an unnecessarily large amount of stress on making these things. And then when I've like finally stepped back and say what we said earlier, this is music for people to kind of escape to on a weekend, when I kind of like embody that a little bit more, like the idea ends up coming out. I'll go back to one of those 2 or 3 musical ideas that we had muted over on the side. I do that with clothes too. I'm like, oh, I can't give away this shirt. This guy gave me this shirt for this record label. I put it in a box. It ends up going in the attic, and then it's like I'll find it a year later and be like, oh yeah, fuck this shirt.
Yeah, right. It's going to the Salvation Army, going to Goodwill. Yeah, swinging back to versioning. That was the reason why it was such a game changer for me was for that reason is, I would get hung up on, wanting XYZ thing to be perfect. I liked the way that it was going, but then but at the same time wasn't. And so then I would once I kind of found versioning, I was like, oh, I can just save as, delete those other things, and it's a fresh slate. And you can always go back to that previous one if you decide that, but 9 times out of 10, maybe even more, it turns out that you just keep progressing on, and you forget about whatever it was that was blocking you.
Yeah, and the other thing that made me feel really free about doing like a similar technique with like saving in Ableton is you could just go grab that one track out of another project. Like people don't even realize too, you could bring whole projects into other projects.
Yes,
like it's incredible. We've never had that flexibility. And any of the DAWs that I can remember where you could open up a completely new or old song into a song that you're working on already. Like I can grab a whole drum bus and like bring that into a track, and it is game changing. I would always end up building drums, and maybe I couldn't flesh out any sort of musical idea, and then I'd get a remix sent over, or I would have like an inspired musical idea, or I'll be chopping a sample. I could literally drag all my drums over, arranged with transitional effects and stuff like that, and be there, and I could have a track done in 45 minutes sometimes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, on top of it too, like, we have the capability to work quick now, which is much easier than it's ever been before. And like, I like working quick. It's inspired. Right. It's like kind of like, don't really fuck around. There's no time for those bad ideas or these like wishy-washy. Like, usually if we're gonna like put pen to paper or create some sort of track, like, usually we think it has a place in the track. But and it's usually not a bad idea. Right. It just might not be a good idea that's adding to like your music,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck extra hi-hats.
We got plenty of them.
We all do it. We all do it.
Yeah.
We all do. I think overproduction is like, I fall into the trap of it most of the time too. I think we all do. I think it's because it's our art and our music, and we're trying to like pour ourselves into it, that like you just like, I want to give more and more. I mean, I'm like that with anything in my life. Like, I'm going to the gym, I'm like, go to the gym and go like 3 times a day and like do more and more and more. I mean, I'm an addict, so it's like kind of just how I function with everything. But I think it's like, it's a really common producer mistake. It's like you want to add more, and it's like there's a certain point where the people out here don't care.
Right.
They just want like the true essence of what's happening. They don't care that your 6 hi-hats added in. If you did it right with your first 1 or 2, then like don't need the rest of that shit. Right.
I call it the umbrella theory, because Rihanna's Umbrella track had a GarageBand loop that was the whole drum.
That was actually out of GarageBand?
Yep. Oh, my headphones are moving there. That was a drum loop straight out of GarageBand. Oh man, my headphones completely died. Oh, there we go. It's.
I think something might have went out over there too.
Did it?
Weird. I'm on one ear.
Uh-oh.
We could press on if
All
it's
right,
still recording.
It's.
I didn't know that. I actually really like that break.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, you peeled back the curtain a little bit now for me, knowing that it is a GarageBand loop. However, still sounds good.
Right.
I'm not going to be affected by it. I think that's one of the issues that we have as like producers and DJs, right? We're so into this, and we're so into where sounds came from and the making of a track, but we're a very small part of the population.
Right.
Yeah, we are the creators, and we are the people who host the nights and like, bring the entertainment for people, but everybody else down there doesn't really give a shit about the garage.
They don't care.
Yeah, it's the first time I've heard that about that track, but that sold millions of records.
Millions.
And whoever wrote that could retire.
Right.
Unless there was an outright buy from Rihanna. Sorry,
I hope not.
Producer.
$3,000 for the beat. Like, I'd be killing myself.
Took it off YouTube.
Yeah.
But like to the billions of people who've heard the song now since it came out, like they don't care.
No, they don't care.
They don't care.
Right. And
like,
that's,
for example, hitting the sync button.
Yeah.
Like, huge no-no.
Right.
From a DJ perspective. Like, at least like in the house, techno, tech. I mean, it still happens. See people do it all the time. But they don't care.
They don't care.
If you have a laptop up here, like, a lot of people will scoff at that.
Right.
They don't care.
Yeah.
It's hard to get over that.
Yeah.
Really hard to get over that as a DJ and a producer,
Right. Yeah, I mean, but they're all just tools, I mean, the sync button topic is a favorite of mine, because I really do feel like it's this shouting platform that people get on, and they're like, "You're not a good DJ if you use the sync button." It's like, okay, well, sure, valid point. You should know how to beat match. That is, DJing 101, right? But at the end of the day, the most important thing for anything that you're on stage for is the audience. And so, and the reason why I think Pioneer didn't shy away from putting it on their CDJs, past I think the 2000 and then 2000 Nexus and Nexus 2 have all had it, is because it's a tool. And look, if you are, we have 4 decks up here, and I'm not, afraid to say that most people that come in here don't use all 4 decks. That's pretty standard. Most use 2, some use 3. The really kind of
give me another.
I know,
5.
Right? But that's the thing is, I've had sets. Granted, I was using Tractor at the time.
Yep.
But I've had sets where I've had 5 or 4 loops going on at the same time.
Yep.
And transitioning between BPMs, I've had sets that I've gone from 120 house music to dubstep at 140,
Yep.
and then all the way up into drum and bass. And I was able to do that not with beatless breakdowns, blending of breakdowns.
You were able to,
I was
like,
able to keep the
slowly-
beat and literally crank the beat up, and so the beat's getting faster, and then you break into this drum and bass, and the fucking room goes nuts, and it's
They went
like
crazy, yeah.
dude, yeah, and that's
People
like
were sweating they're like, why's my blood pressure going
Right.
up? Thanks, Scott.
and like yeah, exactly, and like please do that without sync. I would love to see it. It's
I mean, trust me, there are people
Yes.
that completely can't do that, but
Yes.
you're right.
Yeah.
It is an amazing tool for that.
yeah.
Just, that was why I steered away from sample packs.
Right.
Kind of the same, like, I mean, okay, let's put it this way. I would love a Tesla. I was saying that before.
Mm-hmm.
I want that shit to drive me everywhere.
Right.
Go to Whole Foods. I'm rich now. Like I like take me there. Like I'm into that. However, on the music production side thing, like if I had a drum loop, I wanted to make the drum loop.
Yeah.
I wanted to program it.
Yeah.
Out of my drum machine.
Right.
That I probably paid way too much money for. Right. And it wasn't serving me in like the long run, because like if I was like just using a TR8, granted that there are 5 amazing drum machines on there, like I'm still losing out on a big like part of like the musical palette that I could like effectively make people in a nightclub dance to. So I was always really kind of against like these prepackaged things that like made everybody sound like everybody else, and still am to a certain degree. But like, and I'm very thankful that I took this route at first, so I could kind of have like my own original spin on things. But just like the sing button, I didn't want to think about going on a Loopmasters website, buying like a house pack with a piano riff already done.
Oh yeah.
A kick drum already looped in time, and like a top loop like of hi-hats and claps. Like there was this thing back in the day this was when I was going to raves too, so this is probably like 97, 98, maybe 99. It's called MTV Music Generator. You would literally take clips. It was on PlayStation. It was on like PlayStation 1.
I think I remember this.
Yeah, and you would like literally take clips like, oh, hip hop beat, and you would like place it in this little cell and be like, oh, drum and bass, bass line, boom, and you would pop it in. Everything was in key, and of course it would sync. It was PlayStation. It was more of a game, but then flash like another probably 10 to 15 years in the future. I'm sitting there and like Ableton, and I'm watching people like on YouTube. They're able to tech house beat 4 and place it into a cell. I mean, it took very little like skill to be able to like just take these like musical clips,
Right.
pop them into your DAW,
Right.
add some shitty little vocal from the cut out of YouTube, and like a drum roll and a white noise, and you two are like a producer, and like cool. I'm glad people could do it. It brings more people into this community, and I am not hating on it.
Right.
And I think good art and good music will like push through and shine through. But you could kind of get somebody like going like, okay, here's why I do have a problem. Where's my soapbox?
Let's get into it. Yeah.
You could be okay. So I know how to spin vinyl. I know how to beat match.
Right.
I feel very confident in my skills as a producer. Like I been able to go on this amazing journey, and this has been like my focus of my life since I picked up a guitar at 14. And I realize that's not going to be the same for everybody. And I'm still only this far with my career at this point too. So I'm no fucking genius.
Right.
I'm no wonder kid. Like I'm 38 now. You know what I mean? And I'm still like trying to like, push through and like play nightclubs. Like, trust me, I love it, and like I will never not love it. But like, it's like it's been work, and it's been like a lifelong journey for me, and I'm really thankful for that. However, you could have a large Instagram following. Somebody like you or I could teach you how to use these with the sync button in probably a crash course of 2 hours, so you can get your Paris Hilton ass up on decks at a nightclub.
Yeah.
You could buy music from somebody, or buy sample packs and slap together your own track and like send it out to some like maybe a producer to work on it, or a mastering engineer or a mix engineer, and your track could be done and it'll get pushed and it'll sell, and like all of a sudden you're a DJ. I've accepted that this is like it is a route that people take.
Right.
It is not uncommon, like, to buy fame and buy success, and it's gonna exist whether I fucking like it or not.
Right.
I'm the president of house music. You know what I mean? Like, it's not my call, and people do want to be entertained. So, let's say if it's an attractive female who's got 100,000 followers who will fill up a nightclub like this, they're gonna book her.
Mm-hmm.
Whether she's got the sync button on, whether she made her tracks or not. Same for guys too. Like, this isn't like a sex thing. Like, not at all. Yeah. Like I've seen it in New York. These dudes are like models, and all of a sudden they're like filling up some room in Manhattan because like people like beautiful people, and they have, so they could go on social media, on Instagram, and be like, "Yo, I'm playing a gig tomorrow night," and then people are like, "Oh, cool, he's hot, let's go." And like, it doesn't, like, people don't care about that, but like, there's like, it cheapens the culture big time.
Yeah.
And it's not just the sync button. I think the sync button is kind of the, you know, totem for like the figurehead for like a lot that ends up being wrong.
Yeah.
To us, maybe not wrong, but like what, like just not good in the dance music world.
Whatever the opposite of art is.
Yeah, and it's happened with painting.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what's his name, Mr. Brainwash, Terry Guetta, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who, like, a lot of the times wasn't even creating his own artwork and had a team of people running silk prints from him, really riding the coattails of, like, what Banksy was doing.
Yeah, right.
And people could, like, the guy's rich. I'm sure he doesn't give a fuck what I think.
Right.
Or anybody else really thinks at this point. You know, he's got the $10 million, and maybe he still is in his garage making silk prints, but, like, you know, that it historically happens with everything.
Yeah.
You know? I'm sure there's, like, a million like classic producers that were never really as well known as Mozart or Tchaikovsky, but like they were at it too, you know. Maybe they were just biting off them the same way that like other people bite off other like new types of popular art. But yeah, so the sync button isn't bad. Yeah. However, I think what it represents in music culture could just be a little bit unhealthy.
Yeah,
you know. And if we keep cheapening the means by which like the art is created and the experience is curated for a nightclub, if that keeps getting cheapened, at some point the quality is going to end up being so low that it's going to fall out of popularity again. It's going to hurt the industry, all the promoters, all the clubs, places like this, which are really good beacons for like nightlife and our side of the culture of whatever, like of this music that means something to us and our persona. Like, it'll all hurt as a result of that.
Yeah. Well, it's
soapbox.
That was a good one.
Thanks.
No, I mean, that's the reason why you know, you hear so many DJs, you know, kind of lamenting about the fact that, you know, the going rate for an opener DJ is just, you know, it's bottomed out. It's like, you know, oh, here's some gas money. It's like, you know, and it's because everybody and their mom has, you know, a Mac with GarageBand or Logic even, and you know, and it's, or you know, with some DJ program on their iPad, and they can, you know, even a controller or something, and they can spin 2 records together, you know, and sure.
And I love it. I love that
no, it's
is that accessible to people.
It's great, yeah, for sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they almost certainly have not, you know, gained what it is to essentially what a real DJ is, which is this kind of like what DJs used to be and what still are, but what they really were back in the day was curators of music and timing and taste. And so, I mean, to say that, you know, you can play 2 songs back to back for an hour is, you know, yes, that is part of what a DJ does, but to say that you're a full-fledged DJ is kind of, you know, it's kind of throwing it under the bus a little bit, because there's so much more there that is, you know, and there's varying levels of DJs, of course, right?
Yeah, completely.
But, you know, I mean, I think that people need to take that into consideration, you know, when, you know.
Well, I think luckily there'll always be a sense of quality control set in place for it.
Right.
You know, you have an amazing club like this, which is now world renowned and has a great reputation. I don't think that they're going to be that quick to like putting somebody in on the decks to like headline a night or be a support act for the night that is going to be, you know, just cheapening the culture or just be kind of a joke, you know?
100%. Yeah.
So luckily that's set in place. And I think touching back to what we spoke about before, the people who like us as listeners, and all the other listeners who come to a night here, there'll always be a quality control because people just don't want to listen to shitty music.
Right.
You know? And so those checks and balances will always, I think, be there for a little while. Now, if my social media numbers were any higher, like, I may have a different opinion on it. I don't know. I'm only seeing things from my perspective. I've always been music first.
Yeah.
Marketing myself second, which is not been self-serving as far as, like, you know, just my career in general.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, and it is because we are artists, you know. If this didn't exist and these places didn't exist, I'm sure I'd be making some other weird, somewhat unacceptable, I'd be in a punk band, you know.
Right,
I'd be like playing Fugazi tunes on the weekend. They're like 43 years old, you know. But like, I think that's us. That's who we would be as producers, and I think that's why we get along when we speak. And yeah, I don't know, man. I'm really happy that people could access it so easily from a production standpoint, from a DJing standpoint. It only brings more people into our world. It only gets more people interested in the music, and it keeps this a healthy, like, in all honesty, like, at least the people who are buying Loop Masters packs, again, I'm not shitting on Loop Masters, they make good stuff, but at least the people who are buying that to kind of hack together a track, at least the people who do have a controller at home to have sync on, they're going to have, like, a pretty decent palette of, like, what they listen to for music. Like, their Spotify playlists are probably all right, you know?
Yeah.
We probably have some of that music on our USB sticks that we'd play out to a club, too.
Yeah.
So that also really helps, too, you know? I mean, I don't really even have a chip on my shoulder that people have big social media numbers for not doing anything, or for, like, you know, putting out a track that's, like, kind of average, but there's some hype around it. Like, I definitely don't have a chip on my shoulder about that. Like, I've always actually said, like, I'm good for them. I need to learn something from them and from their approach to this industry.
Right.
Because unfortunately, just being centered around just creating good art isn't enough anymore.
Right.
By any means. Right. Just being able to, like, control a dance floor and spin really good curated music isn't part of it. That's not the end all be all of it.
Right.
I mean, for some people, maybe, but they have a horseshoe jammed up their ass, you know, and they're just lucky that it worked out for them like that.
Right.
For the vast majority of people striving for, like, a healthy, you know, well-paid, like, career with the freedom to make the music that they want, you got
solely off of music.
So
like, as in not having a day job and spinning on the weekends.
To be able to do, which is kind of everybody's dreams. Like, you know, who makes music and DJs, like, that's all we want to do. That's why we do it. That's why we'll stay up. Like, that's why a lot of people work all week and then DJ from midnight to, you know, whatever ungodly hour on the weekend. You know, it's like it's the passion behind it, but. Yeah, you have to play the socials game. Yeah.
I've always thought it would be an interesting social experiment to take all these, Loop Masters sound packs and very quickly, comprise a bunch of songs, literally made of nothing but clips, and post them online and give it a quick branding and just see what happens. See if it floats.
I feel like I've seen that. I feel like people have done that before. It's like social. Oh, know what it was? It was the people had created, like, a social media account as this social experiment, and like for a DJ, and they, like, hyped it up, and then all of a sudden this person, which started off as a joke, was getting gig offers, like significant gig offers to go out and do. I don't know the exact story, so I don't want to, like, talk out of my ass about it, but like I absolutely remember seeing that. Like, I started, like, pretending I was a DJ for a joke, and I got gigs. It was like probably like the clickbait tagline for it.
Well, have you seen they have social media? There's social media influencers that are not even real people. They're virtual
God.
people. Literally,
Also getting gigs.
Yeah, I stumbled across this account, and I looked at it, and it was this, it was a chick that was, in her early 20s or whatever, or looked to be in her early 20s. And, there's all these photos of her with, famous people and in like, a music studio and then on stage at the Grammys and all this stuff. And, and I was like looking at it and it had this like uncanny valley vibe going on. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what is weird about this? And then I had zoomed in and I noticed that the girl in all of these things was CGI.
Wow.
And had been superimposed into these photos that were, who knows? I mean, maybe they probably go. There's probably a team of people that goes up to Kanye West and says, "Hey, Kanye," I don't remember what the social media account's name is, the girl, but hey, let's take a photo with X, Y, and Z girl, and he's gonna be like, "All right, where is she?" And he's like, "No, you just have to like hold your arm out, and we're gonna superimpose her."
We got the rest.
Yeah, because it was fucking. I mean, weird, and I'm talking like millions of followers.
Wow.
To the tune probably like 3 or 4 million.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm friends with a dog.
Right.
With a golden retriever.
Me too. I follow a bunch of
40,000 likes.
I follow
Instagram.
Ones that have like hundreds of thousands, millions.
It's incredible. I mean, it's okay. Here's why I'm if I'm going to be an optimist about this, right? Yeah. As much as like I've never really liked playing the social media game, and I'm acclimating more to it now, and I actually do enjoy it now. I can't like completely shit on it, but I'm not the first person to take my phone out and like I don't even think anybody even knows I'm in fucking San Francisco. You know what I mean? Like that guy, I don't live here.
I didn't until you fucking popped your head up.
Yeah. But like that's what people's attitudes are towards us. We have a good meal, let's take a picture of it. Right. Oh, we're in a cool, amazing we should be doing it right now. Like people pine over just being able to sit in front of 4 CDJs and a mixer. And this is like I don't think to like put that out to the world. But what was I going to say? Something to learn from. I mean, it's just like there are... Okay, no, I remember the point I was trying to get to. So I remember being in a band, working really hard to just save up money to go record in a studio. And then spending the countless hours on performing these songs, getting them finished, like working on the mixes, and it was much more arduous then because it's like a lot of times it was like real studio gear and it was a mixer, you know, bounce stuff to ADAT and like all this pain in the ass stuff, right? So it was much harder to make like a good record, never mind a demo tape of like 4 or 5 songs. You'd like rehearsed months with like your band to like make.
Right.
Then you'd have that piece of art. Then what the fuck do you do with it?
Right.
Then you just have a tape or a CD with your music on it. Like internet like becoming like such a widespread like file sharing like platform, you'd have to like go to New York, go to LA, find the like they used to sell these books for like $100 and it would have all like the addresses of record labels and who were the A&Rs if they were still even at the company, and like Lord knows most of them probably were fired, and then you'd have to like find their office building, show up, give out a bunch of CDs that just got thrown into the trash the second you walked out of the door. Like that was the game, you know. And nowadays I could finish a record, master it myself in the same project that I'm working in. Like I have the computing power to do that, and like every instrument right at our fingertips, and send it off to a label and even get signed the same day.
In the same day, literally.
In the same day. If I start something in the morning, I've actually been known because I like to keep a quick work pace. I remember I had finished 4 songs in the course of 24 hours. And like and they were harder techno songs, and I really believed in them and I really liked them, and all 4 of them got signed. 2 came out on an EP, 1 came out on my Snatch release with Riva Star's label last year. Did really well. Probably one of my better selling tracks ever. Actually, I had the OP one on that. All that shit. And then the last one just got signed by my friend Codes for his new label Holy Mole, and it's like the power to be able to do that now is incredible. And so social media is nice.
Yes.
You could do a lot.
Right.
You could become famous in sweatpants without leaving the house.
Right.
So I'm really, really thankful for that.
Yeah.
Like I'm really thankful that like wherever I am in the world, I can finish music and it can get to the rest of the world in a really short period of time.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, in a world where anybody can be a DJ and anybody can produce music, I mean, there's never been less of a barrier of entry to get into it, right? Which is amazing, because I think everybody should have access to it and spark that little creative thing that makes them want to get to the point where we're at and everyone else is, you know, that we look up to. You know, in a world that's swimming in content and you know, short attention spans and that sort of thing, I tend to kind of I'm where you're at, where I'm like I'm not. I was kind of playing the social media game heavily and kind of doing the things, and you're going to get this kind of quick, you know, feedback and the likes and that sort of thing. But it just felt very fleeting. And then you see somebody that, you know, does practically nothing and just, you know, looks good or has a nice car or whatever, and they just get up to, you know, millions of views, and they're like, okay, well, fuck, like, is this time really being spent well? And so I personally, I guess I'll just speak for myself here, and it sounds like kind of where you're at, but instead of focusing that creative energy or time or energy at all into these kind of small posts and small kind of micro things that are going to get you these small micro likes or transactions, I switched completely. And like you said, like I have focused now on trying to crank out as much music as possible, right? Like do a song in a day, at least most of it. And, you know, don't worry about like, you know, posting every single photo op just because you know, because it's a good thing that would get lots of likes or whatever on Instagram. But like that attention has essentially become this, where now I'm posting literally more content than I have ever posted, to the tune of I have over 100 hours of podcasts. Wow. You know, of recorded content of me just sitting here blabbing with interesting people.
Yeah, but of relevant stuff.
But that's the point.
Worked for that, like, I mean, hopefully relevant stuff. I don't know how fucking good this is.
Well, quality content. You know what I mean? Like, because while it takes a significant amount of more work than you know, even 100 Instagram posts, any one podcast that I do. I mean, you know, it takes hours to process it and host it all and put it up on the sites and that sort of thing. But what you're getting is such you're getting knowledge, you're getting entertainment, you're getting, you know, and with our music, right? Like, like the songs that you crank out, you're giving back to people, and you're giving them this thing that they can escape on, they can dance on the dance floor with, and like, even, you know, they can feel trivial, even with this. Like these podcasts probably get less attention, you know, currently than most, you know, than even some of my music, and I'm sure most of your music. But you know, knowing that you have some value in the content that you give, and standing behind it and putting it out there, feeling good about and putting it out there. I feel like it's just a matter of time, and I think that if more people really focused on that and less on these trivial quick posts, people would have a lot more it's the long game. It's not the short game. Right? It might take you a couple years.
It is, and I think that you're probably in the same position I was, you know, going back a couple of years ago. I would rather have a vast cache of content that meant something.
Exactly.
That when people do discover me, whether organically or it is me putting myself there on social media, that at least there is something they could sink their teeth into.
Right.
And I think that's probably what you're going for with this too. Like, I actually always really like that when, like, I don't watch TV anymore. I predominantly watch YouTube. So when I find a new channel or a new presenter, a new host or whatever it is, and then I see that there's like, you know, like Joe Rogan, for example. You may not like him, but like when I found his podcast and, like, you know, he's interviewing these incredible people like Elon Musk. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson was probably the first one I watched. It was so incredible to find out there was like 1,500 other ones that I could like watch and sink my teeth into, you know?
Exactly.
And that meant something to me, you know? And now at this point, it's like I'm always going to be a fan. And that means something to me. Like, I've gotten hours and hours of amazing, like, knowledgeable entertainment from it. And on the same token, with music, it's like, I was okay at first without, like, I've never really wanted to, like, jam my foot into doors I like how I did that. Foot into doors. To be seen and to be heard. Like, I find that to be a little bit forceful, and I don't think with entertainment, like, I know that it's the strategy for a lot of people, but I wanted to, like, have this substance that now, which I'm doing much more lately and will continue to do so, now when I jam my foot in the door, there's 200 releases behind me, and that'll mean something a little bit more. And had I done it earlier on, I think in my career, without a lot to stand on, I think it would have meant a lot less and meant a lot less to people too. And I just wanted to make sure when people found me for the first time, it was for a reason, and that I'd give them a reason to continue to listen, to show up at in their city when I
hit
come
that
through.
follow button.
Yeah, to smash that like button.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Yeah. But I wanted to show up at your door and like have something to say, you know.
Yeah.
And for a while too, it was like me figuring out who I was as an artist, which we're always continually gonna try to figure out what we're gonna do and try to innovate and try to make something new and try to make something original. Like it took me a while to figure out who I was. Like I always knew it was house. And it was gonna stray a little bit left or a little bit right, depending on, like, sometimes I'm fucking pissed off and I want to make like heavy techno. Sometimes I'm in really a good mood and I'm gonna lay a synthesizer solo over a disco track. I don't know how, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a Cancer. It's like it could be anything different from 5 minutes to the next.
Right.
But like, I just wanted to show up with some good content, you know. And now I feel like I've really hit like a stride where almost everything I finish is getting picked up if I send it out, you know, if I want it to come out. And with bigger and better labels, more and more people are seeing me. I'm really thankful that, and I tell this to a lot of my friends who are younger artists and, you know, just starting to put out the first couple of releases. Like, you know, maybe I have a back catalog of like 200 tracks out there now, but like, you know, a lot of them weren't seen, and I'm okay with that because now I can put out a record. People will be like, "Oh, this dude's sick," and then jump on Beatport, see a bunch of releases. It's a good feeling for me, you know, and it's a good feeling to step back and to look at the work as a whole and kind of see my progression as an artist as well with it too. That like I said, now if I'm like on social media shouting in people's faces like "fucking listen to me," like the rest of the world's doing. There's some shit there.
That has the reverse effect, I've found. Shouting, people look at me, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I
do that on the street, too.
You might actually have more, better chances there. Listen to my mixtape. No, I had that...
Pure fire.
Pure fire. I had that same realization when I found Bonobo. So again, like I was talking about, kind of years ago, stumbled across Bonobo, but he had been doing his thing for years. And when I found him, I mean, he had, I listened to one track, brought him up on Spotify, and he had 6 albums maybe that were on Spotify.
Full, cohesive.
And literally just put it on play, and it just goes through his whole discography. And by the end,
sick.
I was a fan. You know what I mean? And I think that, you know,
to the point that anytime we'll come through San Francisco, you will make an effort to go see him.
For sure. Absolutely.
You know? That's the kind of pull that I want with people. That's like I give, this is going to sound like so metaphysical, new agey. I give all of myself with each track that I put out, right? Yeah. Like anytime I'm sitting down to make artwork, and I want people to feel that. Yeah. You know, and feel a dedication to me and to my brand and to my music the same way that I feel putting it to the art. Because, like, without an audience, it's not... Art for art's sake is a real thing. Yeah. Being naive enough to think that no one's going to hear it or that I'm not making it for other people, like, that has no place in it for me anymore. Like, I am making things with the expectation of it being delivered to people and for them to hear it and enjoy it and love it. Right. Like, and I want more and more people to love it and enjoy it. And shit, if I could write a track that's a hit, which there's been many cases I feel like I have, just the perfect storm didn't happen. Like I want the masses to hear it.
For
you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
Like I'm like okay with that at this point. There was a period of time where like I wasn't okay with that. You know, like it was more underground the better. But what's that doing for anybody really?
Yeah. That's kind of a losing game. In my
It's just
opinion.
I just think my favorite music is so far underground and so uncommercially acceptable, like Randomer and Cadence, which are probably really well known people in like the dance and house and techno world, but like I mean, not that they're small or anything like that, but like they make such obscure music at times and such heavy music that like they're like chances of them being like a pop hit like are pretty slim to none. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Incredible producers, incredible artists. But yeah, I forgot why I brought them up. But like it's just very underground, and like I do tend to make a little bit more commercially viable and commercially acceptable music. So I'm like these days I'm more comfortable with the idea of something like being a bigger like commercially successful release, and I wasn't okay with that for a really long time.
Well, it's underground until it's not, right? Like me bringing up Bonobo was A, because of his laundry list of albums, but B, because think about that. I mean, he kind of reached in recent years a breaking point, a pinnacle of his career, and to where now people would look at him and say he's made it. But
Yeah.
I mean, he was making music for 20 years, so I bet that that a good majority of that way people thought of him as underground, and maybe even thought of himself as underground, and then at some point it's not anymore.
Yeah, completely.
And, you know what I mean? And it becomes this sound that he never really changed his sound. He never really sold out or anything, but it just the way that things like go in waves and things sync up kind of serendipitously, like his sound just found a wave of people, and then they gravitated towards it,
and he ultimately affected
millions.
But what the sound was himself,
exactly,
too, by holding true to what it is. Yeah, and that's why I said like Perfect Storm before too, because I've heard a lot of tracks that could and should be hits over the years, not not my own, but other people's, and like I said, maybe a couple of my own, but like there has to almost be this like perfect storm. It's like, where is the market of people? Like, what are they listening to? And like, is your sound original? There's got to be like a lot. Is it on the right label, or enough people even just able to hear it? Just because a track gets signed doesn't mean people are going to hear it. A lot of people start their own record labels. It's like, but people won't hear it,
Right.
like, and so it's gotta like be all these things. Like, yeah, social media is a part of that. The track has to be good. The label has to do their work to make sure that the music gets out, and it's kind of got to be in vogue of like what's happening in like the music world right now for things to like really kind of blow up. And when that happens for people, like, that's a career maker right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't sit down like, I'm going to make a hit. Like, there was a couple month period where I may have thought that.
Yeah.
And it was more or less because I finally had the opportunity to know that I can get my music out to the world with the right labels, and I had the right network of people, and I was working with a management company, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to like write a hit, and it's like, that fucking blew up in my face real fast.
Right.
But like, yeah, there's all these factors that add into like making something like a huge commercially successful track. I mean, some of my favorites in the dance music world, like you had Midland's Final Credits, and he was like, almost a similar feel to like Bonobo. It was like post dubstep, really percussive, like really crazy music, and then Midland ended up doing that Final Credits track, which is it's like 132 BPMs. It's really fast. It's a disco joint. Like, it was out, I think, just on bootleg or just vinyl for like a long time, and it like gained all this underground popularity. And then by the time it came out, like, it was like, it was like already kind of a hit before that, because people like wanted it so bad. And then by the time it came out, it like did incredibly well. Still I think on the charts on Beatport.
Wow.
It was 2.5, probably 4 years after the track came out. And although he was a successful DJ up until that point, like, it did wonders for his career.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just kind of like there's really, we've touched on it in proximity throughout this whole conversation. There's like these, like, almost a couple of different ways to like paths to success in this industry. It's like, lightning hits and one thing comes out, you're like a Martin Garrix, and like you write something in Fruity Loops and it just takes the world over by storm.
In your
all
bedroom with
things,
2 KRK monitors.
and all these things like happen around you, and like, you know, the C parts, and like you walk onto the stage at a festival, and you're now 150K per festival like act, you know, and that's great. It's great.
Yeah. Especially if you can keep it going. Like I was very kind of pleasantly surprised to see Martin Garrix follow through with and have a successful career.
But on the other same side of that, like look on the unfortunate demise of Avicii, you know, and that's the other side of it. Yeah, maybe he had good management, and you know, and definitely wrote some hits that really define like the 2010s era of music, but unfortunately, like, you know, God rest his soul, that like it went horribly wrong. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And then the other side of it, so that's one path, you know, rest in peace Avicii, like again, part of a group of artists that like as like house and techno and tech house producers, like we owe a lot to, I think. For you know? Yeah. And like an incredible songwriter too on top of it. But and the other side of the success or path to success is the grind. Yeah. You know, which ate Avicii alive, literally. You know. Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying like you could have all these like factors, and you could like write a hit, and all of a sudden, like within 6 months' time, you're a headline act. Yes. And then there's like the long con. Yeah. You know, and the long con is what most of us have to, not con, but the long game is like what most of us have to end up playing. You know, like solidifying yourself as a good DJ, solidifying yourself like with good industry connections, solidifying yourself with good record labels that will get your tracks heard. I mean, but it's all climb. Like, you know, I didn't. That is going to be like 99.9% of people. Yeah, and it really takes. I mean, the thing that I'm seeing, like I said, there was a brief period of time when I had a lot of connections and was working with a lot of the right people and like the really heavy hitters in the house music world, that I felt like, you know, it was just one track away from like having things just be laid out in front of me and like having a pretty smooth sailing career. And, you know, I'm thankful that that didn't happen. I don't think I would have known what to do with the success like 5 years ago, but yeah, I mean, like it takes work and it takes follow through on top of it. You know, after my first couple releases, which were with great labels, with, you know, say Nervous Records, Todd Terry was the first one to put me on his INHouse record label, and they've been around forever. And it's also Todd, so getting his stamp of approval has been amazing. I've done a lot of releases with Kenny Dope and his label, and, you know, Ministry of Sound, and, you know, remixes on Sony, and like I've had like a lot of really amazing releases, and I'm really grateful for all of them, you know, right up until today with Exploited and Riva Starr with his Snatch record label. And it's like, it's cool, but it's like I like, you gotta follow through, man. I gotta like keep pushing on these things, because there's so much music that comes out, you can become irrelevant very quickly. For sure. And people expect more and more from you as well too, which I'm okay with. But like, you know, if you put out a track and it went really well in the underground world, and people, they were spinning it here every weekend, people are gonna be looking to you for like the next thing to come. You know? And you kind of like have to follow through with that. And so at least I could take a lot of comfort in the fact that, you know, my calendar keeps getting fuller with gigs. The gigs are more of what I want to play in more of the venues I want to play in. After I play here on Friday, I'm heading with Defected to Sound LA. So, nice. And I haven't played there yet. So I'm thankful for that. My releases keep, you know, not charting is the end all be all, but like it is a good litmus test of how the music is doing, how it's resonating with people. They seem to be doing better on the charts. The music feels more like me. It's more of what I want to put out. It's like there's less conscious thought and effort when I'm making something. If it is going to resonate better with people, it just happens to be, which is good. So like there is a lot of follow through in this industry to kind of like keep it going and kind of keep getting to the next tier and the next echelon. And when I got back into this industry, when I got you know, I started to solidify my relationships with, you know, Kenny Dope and Junior Sanchez and Roland Clark and Todd, and It was really grateful to be around these guys who were 10 to 15 years older than me, who've had such amazing careers in this, because I never really wanted to walk into this on this like short-term game where like I could come in, like, you know, do a bunch of nightclubs, have one track that pops, like, and maybe some festivals, and then like 5 years no one gives a shit about me. Like, I have been doing this since I was a 14-year-old 13-year-old kid, you know, learning Led Zeppelin tunes, and this is all I've wanted to do since then. So having like the long play and the longevity has been like really the bigger focus for me from the beginning anyways. So I'm okay with how things are moving with it. Of course everybody likes to be a little further than they are, and the grass is always greener, but yeah, man, I'm really thankful with how it's all played out for me.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a really unique opportunity too. Like, I'd been back into production for probably only a year, not even full time, with working other jobs, and you know, I had a couple of releases out, and then I was able to do like a Kylie Minogue and Giorgio Moroder remix, like for Sony, which was like, yeah, it's like two legendary artists. You know, one I have had a crush on since the 80s. The other one's Kylie Minogue. But no, so I was able to do that, and it was a really good platform. It was a really good springboard to like kind of keep going with this and to enter into it full time. But yeah, man, like I've gotten to grow since those early releases to where I am now, kind of in front of people.
Yeah.
It's been crazy. I've kind of been able to reconnect DJing in like, you know, in front of people, you know, as we all kind of do. But it's been a really cool process, man. I'm really thankful for it. And the same thing goes for my music production too. Like, I've been able to throw out synthesizers as part of like my growth process.
Right.
I've been able to like see what works for me as far as like file structure. Like, I know you're the same way as this, and this is why I watch YouTube every night before I go to bed, and why I don't watch TV. I like to learn.
Yeah.
Like, I like to learn. Like, I still will fall asleep a couple times a week watching production tutorials.
Right.
I watch way too much shit on science and like interstellar travel, whatever, you name it. Yeah. Like, I sadly probably know as much about the CERN particle accelerator as I do like any other like relevant topic for today, or politics. In fact, I definitely know more about CERN like particle accelerator than I do politics. But like I like learning.
Yeah.
I like that process, and I like learning about music, and I like learning about performing. And it's like that's been the big part of the process for me, because
for sure.
if I hit a wall, if I hit the end, if I learned all I need to know, like I'd become really uninterested in it in general, and like and being like an autodidactic learner and being like a progressive like person with all aspects of my life, like it's amazing. There's kind of like no end to this culture, and no end to music creation in general, you know. And I'm thankful for that. Like, I'll never hit a wall with it, you know. It's like fucking golf.
Well, yeah,
I'm never gonna be like done with golfing unless you can hit it in on one try every hole,
right?
18 holes. There's always better golf to be played, you know. There's like always better music for me to make.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we're lucky to be in the electronic music scene where there is really no growing out of it. I mean, you know, people in the outside world or whatever normies would be like, well, 40 years old, still going to raves, and it's like, no, I mean,
well, probably,
yeah. But like, yeah. But it's there's you're seeing artists like Tiesto and Cosmic Gate and a lot of these people, David Guetta, are getting into their 50s and some are well into their 50s, and I'm just thankful that this is a thing that it's taken me. I've been making music since 2001 as well, and it's like. It only now do I really feel like my mixes are commercially viable and my content is commercially viable. And if you had told me that when I was 21, I definitely would have been. I wouldn't have given up. I wouldn't have stopped. But I would have been dismayed to a certain degree.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
It's just there's just so much to learn, and that's the same reason why I fall asleep watching production tutorials and listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks when I'm driving, because like, you know, when you're excited about something, and for me and you and I'm sure everyone listening, it's music production and DJing and performing and all that stuff. But that same kind of excitement kind of bleeds out into other things like, you know, quantum physics and particle, you know, colliders and stuff. And, you know, what I want to be a sponge, and I would argue that I think that everybody, if you're going to be a successful person doing whatever it is you're doing these days, in the days of the era of digital content and social media, like you kind of need to be just a sponge at any given time, because you know you might be listening to some random thing and maybe you're not even actively listening really, but something kind of sticks in your head, and then the next day you put that into use. You know what I mean? And that's what I want to be absorbing. I don't want to be absorbing the fucking Real Housewives of San Diego or whatever the fuck it is these days. You know, it's like, and not to mention like you know, I hate to say it, but like some of the girls I've dated, like that's been like their favorite shit. And at the end of that, you know, I'll sit there and watch whatever. I tend to prefer like movies and stuff, because at least I'm getting something out of that.
Helps you weed through them, man.
Yeah, right. But like a lot of those shows too, like I realized that they were giving, and you can find this with you know, YouTube kind of, you know, these like
there's a lot of
politically toxic, like you know, like
there's a lot of bad
clickbaity
content.
stuff, you know. But you got to really watch out for what is, you know, you might be addicted to watching these things that give you this, you know, what is it that you're getting out of this? Is it some weird sick, like, you know, watching someone's life fall apart and that's what you're enjoying out of it? You know what I mean? Like, I want to watch something that's going to be building my life and building my
of course,
my
because
goals. You know?
we look at it as tools, you know,
right.
and like I think the innate thing that we all have is like, whether you self-sabotage or you don't, or you're healthy, like we all want a good life.
Yeah.
Like an effortless, good, happy life.
Yeah.
And I think for people like us, we know that the creative process brings us joy.
Right.
And again, if we were in a vacuum, that's all we would do. I wouldn't even shower. Wouldn't even eat. I've actually been so bad with like work over the last couple of years that like if they had that Jetsons pill, it was like the whole meal and just one caplet. Like
so they got Soylent.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, which is a real thing now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of
I got
creepy.
it. It's good.
Do you?
Yeah.
Talk after.
Yeah.
But you know, like I think we all just want good, happy, effortless lives of health and to be beautiful and like have everything like handed to us and given to us. And people like us, we want to arm ourselves with knowledge and like exploring and just have the creative mind of a child and be able to do what we want and kind of free. And I mean, not that everybody falls into that, but like I think that's what a lot of us look for. Then there's the other side of it. It's like there's a lot of content that pulls you away from that, and some people do get wrapped up in enjoying drama and other people's drama and other people's negativity, and anger sells.
Yeah.
So it's easy to promote to people, and like debauched behavior sells. It's easy to promote that to people, and a lot of people fall down that path. And what I find is it doesn't lead to a good life. It doesn't lead to like sustained happiness. I mean, not a lot of people know this. I'll fucking put it out there because I don't really give a shit. Like, I turned to drugs and alcohol for years, thinking that that was what the path was to sustain happiness.
Right.
Wasn't. You know?
Yeah.
15 years later, I realized that, like, these substances that I was putting in my body it wasn't sustainable, you know? And so it gives me a unique perspective on like you know, maintaining a good happy life and exploring and learning and like, you know, living healthy and like living free and being able to create. Like that didn't work, and I shifted. In fact, the amazing thing was like bringing it back into music is like I had nothing. Like I barely had any family that was talking to me. I was homeless. I didn't have I basically had the clothes on my back, you know?
Yeah.
In fact, I was lucky enough to have my computer in storage. But I got to sit there with, like, basically nothing, no friends, no people, a little bit of family, and be like, all right, well, you know, 30, I think it was like 30, 31. I was like, what do I want to do in my life? And it took me probably 8 seconds to be like, oh, house music.
Yeah.
So I'm like really thankful for that. And I was able to like pivot my effort and my energy into that. But like we are creatives, you know, and to anybody who like to watch or listen to this, like will relate to that. It's like that is what our driving force is. Right. And it's cool. It's like I actually am so wrapped up in that it's hard for me to think of a life where there is no creativity in it. Yeah. I mean, I think I would apply it. If I was a mechanic, I would apply it to the way that I would work. I'd probably be inventing tools to help me get around an engine block to like work on the Toyota at the shitty factory. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of people we are. But like, you know, creativity is like our driving force with things. And like, I feel really grateful to have that like as like the predominant part of my life, man. It's like, I don't know what else I would do. Yeah. I like, when I think about like maybe walking away from this industry and like, like thinking of this setup is like such like, you know, an iconic like view of like this is what we do. Like this is what I know. Like okay. Like I in all honesty, like I'm a like pretty skilled like craftsman, and like I know cars really well. I grew up like in a garage. I got that from my father. Like I could do whatever the fuck I want. Like if it was being an architect, like probably learn how to do the majority off that as YouTube, and I would go back to school. Right. This is what I know as a professional adult.
This is our kitchen.
This is
you are Paula Dean.
Yeah, well, minus the racist remarks and the butter. Yeah, you get me. But like
today's recipe starts with 1 stick of butter. Yeah, every recipe,
and then add to it a stick of butter.
A stick of butter.
But yeah, I mean, it's like this is what I know professionally. It's a pretty amazing thing to think of that my life has led to this point where. Like we could like combine clicks and whistles and synthesized kick drums from like an old drum machine that no one could even afford anymore to like create this world of like escapism. And I think that that's why like, you know, I don't have a chip on my shoulder and I have no ill will towards like you know, maybe somebody who's on Instagram that could go and like DJ and like learn how to do it and like with their following like end up being a DJ in a club and within like a 2-month period. I don't have anything against it, but like there is like such a huge, vast part of this culture and like a lot of love and like a lot of fundamentals. And like, again, it's not a secret club that you have to know a lot about to come in and experience and be a part of. But like, there's such an amazing history to it that's still like unfolding in front of all of us right now that it's like, why not take advantage of that? Right. I mean, some people don't want to learn. Some people do want to watch Real Housewives of like Boise, Idaho, but like, cool, right? You know, I'm okay with them doing that. I always say too, and like this is like a like gonna sound negative, but if it wasn't for all like the shitty people in the world, like I wouldn't be so cool, right? No, it's a good. So point. Go on, keep being shitty, right? Yeah. Like if it wasn't for all the people like out there like being unhealthy, like if everybody was healthy, I'd never go to the gym because like everybody would be everyone would be at Planet Fitness, and I'm not going there. Like I avoid people like cats to water most of the time. So let people be lazy. I'm okay with it. Right. Let people listen to like. You know, like going back to like you saying that like loop from Umbrella being like right straight out of the box from like what was it? GarageBand. Yeah. Apple Loops, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Leaves so much more space for other art to happen. Right. You know, and I think that can be said about the vast ocean of content that's out there right now. It's like, yeah, it's going to be harder to swim your way across the Atlantic, but you know, the people that are really you know, putting their heart and soul into these bits of content, whether it's music or art or whatever, like. Once you find something like that, and you're drowning in an ocean of mediocrity, I suppose. Yeah, like, no, it is. And you find something that you are stoked on, you just fucking grab onto it, and then you know those people like dive into it. And like I found a drum and bass remix of one of Bonobo's tracks recently, and it was so well done. It was so well mixed. I'm gonna have to. I'm not gonna be able to remember the name because it was he had like one track. Yes, I will. I literally was so passionate about it.
linked his track on like a bunch of other sites and like
Oh, wow.
forums because I was like, this is fucking killer. You should hear this.
Yeah.
And I have one site specifically that I use that's like just a bunch of DJs and music producers and like that's where
nice.
yeah. And so that one I specifically posted there, but again, I was a little disappointed because he didn't really have much else, and so it was kind of this anomaly. But when you do that, even more reason to have a library of content that you've made, and that's why I kind of put DJing on the back burner years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, because I saw a lot of people that were kind of trying to do both, do the production and play out, and I kind of felt that like, if you spin your wheels doing both, you're not going to get very far doing either, And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to do production,
Yeah, earlier on in my career, if I go back 5, 6, 7 years ago, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to, again, going back to who we are, music first, No, it's the better approach to take, I think.
Well, but I mean, with the idea that I knew I would come back to it, and I have been. Like lately, I've been playing and just I got my a USB on my keychain and on a lanyard, and I've got it freshly. Like I literally had to rebuild my entire library because it was all fucking dubstep and electro and shit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
I got some stuff for you.
Yeah, right. I'm not interested anymore. Just kidding. No, my tastes have kind of progressed.
Yeah.
So that's been really exciting. It's kind of rebuilding and refining this new stuff that I want to play out, and I feel like my focus and my taste has gotten even better, and my timing. And so I don't feel like that was lost at all. I didn't lose anything. In fact, I think I gained a lot because I when you do take a break from something, you don't give up on it completely, but it makes room for other things, and it made room for my productions to get better, which they did. They got massively better.
Yeah.
It made room for this.
Mm-hmm.
I had time to do a podcast and do podcasting and stuff. Hey, and it coming back to it, it just feels better than it ever has. And I'm doing it now because I want to, and I'm doing it now under the pretenses I want to, which are. I don't really particularly, right now, still just getting back into it. I can't shop myself around because I work here every Friday, Saturday night. But I'm playing the gigs and the times that I really want to, and the times that it feels really good.
Yeah.
And which is kind of everywhere that's not here on a Friday and Saturday,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that standpoint. Again, kind of going back to like shoving your foot in the door.
You're right.
Right. Like I think people like us. I will do it, and I like I said, enjoy doing it more and more now. Because if I'm not gonna like speak up and advocate for myself, no one will.
Yeah.
But we just want to make sure that if I do jam my foot in the door, if you do put yourself forward for a gig, it's the right fit, makes you happy. So there's a reason to do it.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people that like graph for gigs that have like kind of no reason to. Might not be their genre. Might not be like the right fit. It might cost them money to fly out and go do it somewhere, and it's just kind of like this resistance,
right?
And like I applaud you for taking some time to be like, no, actually the production part is going to be the thing that'll help me long term if I focus more of that now,
right?
And I mean, again, you have artists that like don't really even produce. That are some of the biggest DJs in the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
and vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Biggest producers that don't even DJ.
And it's cool. You could definitely do one without the other. And it's a huge grind to do both. And it's a huge grind to be progressive and to improve with both.
Yeah.
So that turns a lot of people off from being able to do it.
Do you think it's safe to say that in 2019? It's probably better to become a producer and then a DJ, and do you think that will take you further in the long run and quicker? Or
I mean, we should have said this earlier as a disclaimer. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
It's all just speculation.
Yeah. No, I mean, different folks, different strokes. I think. Yeah. I think there's going to be some people that their strength lies more as a selector.
Sure.
And as a DJ, and they may have more of a natural gift for that. There's going to be certain people that will greatly benefit from making music more. You know, again, the learning curve I think is so small with both, with being able to DJ, with being able to produce, and there's like a myriad of services. You can get somebody to teach you how to DJ within like a 4-hour class. You could pay somebody to make your music for you, you know, or finish your music for you. So I think kind of go where your heart leads you with it, really. I think it's neither or is more important than the other, you know? Yeah. I mean, if we want to talk like what's the easiest way to success, then it's like don't worry about fucking either of those.
Right.
And just put all your time into social media.
Yeah.
Go take a picture with fucking Danny Tenaglia and like make it feel like you're part of the scene. Like, you know what I mean? Like like if it's quicker success you're looking for.
Right. There's better endeavors.
Don't learn either.
Finance.
Don't do either.
Right.
Pay like I mean this like here's another like you could pay a company to do your social media for you.
Yeah, right.
You just sit home.
Yeah.
You could sit home in your sweatpants, play video games, and they will create all the you know. I think people will see through it at some point, you know.
Sure.
But like, I think like a real wholehearted attempt to do this and have a lasting career from it that is profitable and that will bring you happiness. I think focusing on all the things is important.
Yeah.
I think, you know, a lot of us do have limited time in our day and, you know, it's hard to think of doing it all, but like that's kind of like what separates the men from the boys, and that's kind of what separates the successful from the unsuccessful in this industry, is being able to do, like if we just look at DJing, production, and social media as the three like facets, like you have to do all of them really well.
Yeah.
And if you can't capacitate that yourself, find people that will help you.
Right.
You know, to some varying degree. And like I've had to have help, you know, through management, through other friends help me with things. There's times, you know, I'm very close to Junior Sanchez, is like we bounce ideas off each other a lot, and there's times I've asked him to help me with a track.
Right.
You know, and vice versa.
It's so crucial to have a team of people that you're
completely
tight with. And
completely. If I didn't just have like a manager just telling me, focus on your social media, I'd fucking forget.
Right.
No one would know who I am. You know, no one would know I would have a release coming out.
Right.
You know, I would just go on and be like, look at this frog. You know, like it would be completely irrelevant. But like, luckily, I do have the people around me are like, no, this needs to be a focus.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think for people, and again, like I'm not coming from a standpoint of having like a large amount of success where like I'm on a world tour, but like, you know, I have a pretty full calendar. The releases are going great. I'm happy with the art and the gigs that I'm doing. So to get to at least where I'm at, like I think focus on all those things is
For sure.
is the bigger part of it. And if you can't, find the help to do it.
Yeah. I think the most difficult thing in in this industry, the most difficult hurdle is trying to do it while also having a day job. You know, I mean, working that 9 to 5 and you know, having that be your sole source of income. Because let's be honest, I mean, you know, there is no money up until a certain point of working in this industry. You have to grind for years and years and years.
Yep.
And if you're quitting your day job to just solely pursue music or DJing, people are going to kind of look at you like you're crazy. Like you got to bring in some
crazy.
money. Yeah, right. And so that to me has always been the most difficult thing to figure out, right? Like how do I bring in the money to stay alive while also pursuing this thing that I love so much that I want to make my main endeavor and my main thing.
Yeah. And
that's really where, you know, I mean, if you've, just like you said, like you're able to live on this industry and you know, and have,
not to cut you off, but
yeah.
like I've had to have side hustles throughout
the
years,
yeah,
big time. And no shame in my game for saying it, but like the thing that I think that I was smart to do was, if I had to do a side hustle to bring in extra income, it was pretty much dance music, like house music and tech house and techno based things.
Sure.
You know? And
that's why I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is. So I've had more than 3 friends, I think, stop what they were doing for a day job to pursue production and DJing full time.
Yeah.
And you know, and I, not that I feel partially responsible from it, but I think that they looked at me as like, not if Ant could do it, but like inspired by like what my path has been with it.
For sure.
And I'm grateful for that. And I've cared for these people. They've been my friends, and a lot of people have actually, I think all of them has gone back to like a full-time position.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult,
Yes.
And there's been a lot of positions in my career where I've had to take on mastering jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I was been working out of a studio in Williamsburg, and I've had to like do some work there.
Yeah.
And it's been great. Like I said, it's been all dance music industry associated work.
Sure.
Doing masters for some of my peers and friends and other people in the industry, ghostwriting. Like luckily, I've been able to like kind of do things that have been concentric to what we do. But it's a grind, man.
Yeah.
The other part of it too is like, it's gonna kind of hard to resonate here in California. You guys are really fucking relaxed. Like I'm in New York, like working 18 hours a day on whatever it is. If it's just my own stuff, if it's other people's music, if it's like helping out a friend with it, like we hustle over there.
Yeah.
And it's like now cold and just even thinking about going back to New York, I'm kind of getting a little bit bummed out, like working till 3 a.m. And
It's definitely a thing out there. It's like it's the Wall Street mentality.
It is. Like I talk about this with friends all the time. It's like, so I've been full time back in Brooklyn, except for tour dates for the last like year and a half, and it's like we all work way too much, man.
Yeah.
Like way too much. And in fact, like when like I go to Europe or any of my other friends that like I have these conversations with, it's like we call each other immediately like, what are we doing? Why are we still in New York? But it's like, it's work and you never feel like you get enough done.
Yeah.
Like eating is like usually not even an option because you just throw something down your throat and like just slam another coffee and like move on with the day.
Yeah.
But that seems to be the mentality out there. It's really good though because you will get shit done.
Yes.
It's like boot camp. You know what I mean? Right. It's like playing I always say it's like playing basketball with a medicine ball.
Yeah.
Then when you like go and step onto the real court anywhere else, you're like sick at threes from like half court because like you just like worked your ass off with it. You know. Right. I've always been like that with music production in general, no matter where I am, because I want high output and I want quality output. So like. I work. Are you familiar with the book, Not the Art of War, The War of Art?
Yeah, I read it.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. It's incredible. And that guy talks about sitting down every single day, pen to paper, having a regiment, like, getting into the stream of consciousness and fucking working,
right.
And that's been like, no matter what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to work really hard at it. And like, I'm thankful that this is like, I joke all the time with all my friends, like, why am I not like a dentist or a pharmacist where it's like, you show up at 9, you leave at 5, like you do what's expected of you, you leave it at the door and you get paid decent for it. And you buy a Subaru and like bang some fat girl from high school. You know what I mean? Like that's life and it's simple, but like, I mean, it's not ever going to make me happy, but I just like, I got to try. Like this is like, I got to work. And like, I'm thankful that if I'm going to put all this effort into something, it's something that I really do love, you know? So
well, I think that, and completely justifiably, most people are afraid of kind of what it really does, the sacrifice it takes to make it in this industry, unfortunately. You do have to give up a lot. Whatever it is, whether you're working the 9 to 5 and you have to force yourself from 6 to whatever time you can stay up to do the thing that you want, to segue that to be your main thing. Or, for me, like, I'm working here because I love it, of course, but it means that I get to be surrounded by the electronic music world, be deep into the scene. I have to give up my weekends. I mean, that's kind of, it's great because I'm here, but at the same time, it becomes work because I'm not anything that you're getting paid to do that isn't, if I can't choose to just hang out on a beach, you know what I mean? Then that's technically work. But it's the best work I think I've ever done. But again, it's like I'm giving up my weekends, and there's plenty of social things that I don't get to go to, and it affects my dating life, and it affects all these other things. But for me, all of it comes from this like deep-seated fear of just what you said, like being that dentist that just kind of, does the same thing day in and day out and doesn't really make, maybe you really love Teeth, and I hope you do, and I think that's fantastic. But for me, anything other than this would be soul crushing. You know what I mean? And so
I've done it. We've all done it.
I've done it too for many years, and that's what I used to do hotel AV, and I just met, and I learned a ton of valuable skills because they're looser related. That's
transferable skills are.
Yeah,
it's a great part of it.
Exactly. Yeah. But the amount of people, and I will say guys in this specific scenario, because 9 times out of 10 it was guys that would be in that industry, and we'd be like setting up, and great people, great guys, you know. But I just heard so many stories of, oh yeah, man, I was in a band when I was younger, and we were signed by Universal, and we were really gonna fucking make it, and then the fucking drummer just had a coke habit, and he couldn't kick it, and it fucking all fell apart, and I'm just like, oh god, and 20 years later, now he's like wearing putting up speakers in a fucking suit that he got from Ross, and like, and I'm just like please, anybody watching, like I did that. I did it for many years. It's completely respectable work. But for me, that's not what I wanted, and I'm willing to give up pretty much everything to make this my thing.
There has to be a sacrifice. Well, that's kind of nihilistic. Doesn't have to be a sacrifice, but be prepared that there's going to be a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
I think with anything really, that you're really trying to make your profession and your dreams come true, things will have to be sacrificed. Like, hopefully not. Hopefully you're one of the lucky ones. Sure. But like, I've lost relationships. Yeah. Had to turn down, family vacations, missed out on holidays. Like,
can't afford to take vacations.
Yeah. While other people are progressing in lives and buying bigger houses and nicer cars, like. That oftentimes, until you're in a really higher paid position in this industry because of popularity, like, you have to sacrifice that.
Yeah.
Like, same. I'd be on the beach.
Yep.
Have a new Tesla. Like, I'd own beachfront property. Whatever the case is. Like, whatever. Like, I'd be at the gym way more. I'd have under 8% body fat. Like,
eat nothing but quinoa and.
Yeah, man, and I love that. And then that's like, if I could dedicate myself to that full time, like, that would be the reality of it. But
I am looking forward to getting to some point where I can start focusing on all, incorporating that other stuff as well. Because I would love to go to the gym even more. I go like once a week or something. It's not enough. But
and it feeds into our happiness. And like, I'll say it. There's like a level of happiness you have to give up for this.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time. Again, I don't want to sound like pessimistic
not happiness,
about
but
it.
Comfortability.
Comfortability,
right.
Better term for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of decisions that like I've had to make, and other people will have to make. I mean, even the friends I have that are really successful in this industry, like. A lot of times they don't want to be in their 50s, like on a flight to Japan. Yeah. Like, that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I'm even at the point we're getting on a plane and, like, having to, schlep over to, like, JFK to, like, fly across country. Like, I'm grateful to do this. I love it. I still really love it. And I get to go to the places that, like, I like being at and do what I love doing the most. But, like, it's not easy. And so, like, my friends are in their 50s, like... They have families, they but this is part of it. And it still takes a level of sacrifice at the stage, like even at the higher level. The only one I know that like doesn't really like do the shit he doesn't want to do is probably Armand Van Helden, and it's his whole business model from the beginning with his manager, who I work with a management company, and a friend of mine, Neil Petricone. They have had like a no bullshit, kind of like how Pedro was with like Daft Punk, like this no bullshit, not gonna sacrifice anything for anything mentality towards the industry. And luckily those artists were like in such high demand that they could kind of draw the line in the sand and stick to it, so it's like Armand's not gonna go do a gig unless it pays what he wants to be paid,
right?
And that's a high fee, and if you don't want it, then he'll stay home. And Daft Punk, if they don't want to do a collab with you, no matter how much money you're throwing at them, like I think Madonna's been trying to do something with them since like I think Discovery, which is 2001, and they've said no. It's like there's some people that just like that are talented enough that like they could say no to these things. I mean, we all could say no to things,
Sure.
but like, you know, are in a position enough where they could just say, no, I don't want to do that. It's not worth it for me.
Like Joe Rogan, that turns down shit all the time. He turns down, you know, I'm sure massive amounts of money for putting his show on. You know, he was just talking about putting on Sirius, although they offered him no money, which is funny, but Sirius FM radio and just all kinds of
that negotiation.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Listen, we'll give you nothing.
Right.
However, we got Slim Jims for you for the sponsor.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, no, exactly. It's like, and I hope to be. I hope we're both in a position to be turning away great opportunities.
Right.
I just read an article a friend of mine wrote, and it talked about exactly that, like knowing your worth. You know, drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah.
Because if it's not worth it for you to like go out on a Sunday night and spend like an industry night or at a club because you got to drive to San Jose or Oakland or whatever it is, you know, it's not worth it for you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's gonna have to be some good opportunities that pass. You know, like I missed a lot of conferences this last year because I had good work. I had gigs in New York. I had to come here. Like. You know, some just didn't make sense financially to fly to Europe and go do a festival and fly back. You know, like sometimes you have to say no to like really good opportunities. You know,
Totally.
And it's like again, I don't think you like sacrifices are really necessary, but trying to be involved in nightlife culture for a full time like does come with its pitfalls.
Absolutely.
You're not gonna sleep a lot.
Yeah.
Probably gonna eat shitty food.
Right.
Like I don't even drink. I haven't drank in a while. I still feel just as hungover as everybody else. After 2 Red Bulls and a couple cigarettes, like I'm just as dehydrated as everybody. My ears are ringing like everybody else.
Right.
Again, we must love it so much that I could still like hit Monday and be like, all right, cool, I feel better. It's like back to the studio.
Right. Yeah.
Back to getting on another plane.
Right.
Going to do this in another city, you know?
I get inspiration from it and a lot from like festivals and nights out. One thing I did want to talk about, I don't, and again, I'm completely, almost entirely ignorant to this topic, but I think it's interesting is I feel like in this industry, you know, we were talking about money in the industry and being able to live off what you do in the industry. And, you know, looking at someone like Dirty Bird, for example, where for so many years, you know, they put on these parties and they put out this music and you know, listening to the Claude Von Stroke talk about his, you know, this talk with his wife where she's like, look, I'll give you a year to do this and you got to make, you know, the 30 grand or something by the end of the year. Otherwise, we're going back to the normal life, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
and he got a late start in the game too. He was in his 30s.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, and then you see their massive success now where, you know, it just seemingly, I mean, not overnight, it took a number of years, but, you know, 2 years into it, they're throwing their own festivals and they're getting paid, you know, good money. I can only speculate on how much they get paid to do their sets and that sort of thing. But
I want to know.
Yeah, but it seems like there's this, in the music industry, there's almost next to, you know, no money until you reach this point where there's lots of money, and it's different than so many industries. Like if you have a small business as like a bakery or something, and you can sell your goods and you can kind of ramp up, and then you know completely. Exponentially get there.
It's not a 0 and a 1. It's not like a no to a yes. It's
exactly.
like it's non-binary. Like there's a sliding scale of like income to be made throughout.
Exactly.
I think it's true for us too. It's just being a little bit more creative about it. You know, there's like, what are your strengths? You know, I've had friends that have taught in DJing school. I've had friends who've taught in production school. I have friends that just give lessons. Like, there's a lot to do. You know, if your strong point is mixing, you know, or mixing down other people's tracks, like there's a market for that.
Right.
If you're just making dope ass tracks and you don't want to DJ, you're a ghostwriter. Yeah. Hate to tell you. Yeah. And you could do that. There's people that make a decent amount just from streams on Spotify that they make easily what like an average income is. You know, if you get 1 million streams a month, you've actually done better than most people have.
Wow. Yeah.
Because it's like, I think if 1 million in a month ends up being it's like $4,200 or something like that.
Wow.
If you own all the rights to it.
Sure. Just on Spotify.
Just on Spotify. Exactly. Yeah. So there's ways of doing it. Going back to the Claude Von Stroke thing, the bigger question is how many other people tried to do it that same year that you don't hear about.
Right.
That went back to work. I have a friend who was trying to do it about the same time. He's back working, hanging, what do they call it? I-beams. He's a steel worker, construction site. Gets paid probably better than Claude Von Stroke did his first 5 years, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, went back to that. You know, there's a lot of people that it didn't stick and that we just don't hear about.
Right.
You know?
A lot of it is just timing.
They make, okay, well, a small percentage of it, because they made good, relevant music.
Yeah.
That came out at the right time. You know, it was what I always felt about Dirty Bird that was one of its strongest appeal. They're good at cultivating music and cultivating music that fits in with their style.
Yeah.
You know, and they've had a really good team of people around them. The artists that release on them are all talented and they all helped each other, and it seemed like it was a good communal team effort. But like it hit and it worked.
Right.
And like their music's so accessible that you could be a hip hop fan and go to one of their nights, and there isn't like almost that divide. You can get right into it. You're like, oh, I get this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could be a techno kid and still be totally okay with like, and usually they end up being more towards the snobby side of like the spectrum. Right. But you could go and vibe out at like a Dirty Bird show because it's not that many shades away.
Right.
It's accessible.
Yeah.
I'm a house guy, I guess, from all accounts and like releases and blah, blah, blah. I can walk into one of those nights and have a good time and understand the music.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 808s, there's, a little hip hop vocal cuts and a lot of yeah, completely. And so like it's easy to jump right into.
Yeah.
And from their earlier shows that I saw going back 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was like walk in, have a good time. So they were really smart about creating that vibe with the music, with their parties, with their branding, with what DJs they had, surrounding themselves with talented people. It just worked. Like the other part of it too is like how many there's just like we could start a record label after this podcast probably within 2 hours and like get distribution for it. And like I have all the tracks in the world, so we could have our first track lined up. We can make artwork on our phone. I mean, we're talking a 5-hour process to get this all done and dusted and set into work. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's going to work. No. And people are going to hear it. Right. And people will ever see it. Yeah. And so there's a lot of other stuff behind the scenes and a lot of people and a lot of roles that I think that just don't get seen in the music world. The people that it takes to run this club, the people that it takes to book the talent in here, to create the right vibe, to hang the lights, the people who tune the sound system, the guy who restocks the bar. Like there's like a lot that just keeps. That's just this one nightclub. Right. Then you have all the promoters that actually will bring some parties and people here. Mm-hmm. That's still just a live aspect of it. Never mind a festival. It's way too big to even list. And then you have on the music creation side, you have guys like you and I, but like we've had to rely on friends to get the software sometimes or suggest how to do things. And then like, there's companies that build the samples or that make the drum machines. So it's like the trickle down effect and like the amount of people involved in this thing is so big, and it makes me grateful too because there is like a really big community of people. You like have a connection with a Pioneer guy, and like thanks to them, like we have all this gear in front of us. Right. It's just there's so many people involved in a lot of these things too that I think it's never. I always had the impression like listen, I want to do everything myself. Yeah, always. I taught myself how to master, to mix. I think all to like a pretty professional degree. As much as I have friends that have been in this industry for a long time, it's been through my quest for knowledge and YouTube tutorials and trial and error and just experimenting with things that I know, the things that I know. But I would love to say that I've done it all myself and be proud and like hang my hat from that, but that isn't the case. No. And I don't think that's really the case for anybody too. Yeah. So I like That's why I'm always like really careful with my words, like about like how I project myself or what my opinion is. Like, there's a lot of people that are just really opinionated.
Yeah,
And they say,
right.
fuck anybody who uses the sync button.
Oof, yeah.
Fuck EDM. You know, like, I try to, like, have, like, a level of empathy and gratitude for everybody who's doing this. Because, one, everybody could be a fan and everybody could like my music.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to start whittling down that pool of people for any reason, you know. It's not why I'm creating. I'm not creating it for a certain segment of people. Like, if you're...
God, I've seen, not to cut you off, but I've seen DJs and producers, like, hop on Twitter and start, like, spouting political stuff. And I'm like, oh, geez, man, you're that's an easy way to shelf off half of your fucking...
Well, we
I
know. I like the whole country's fucked up over that.
Exactly right.
The last thing I need to do is put my opinion into it.
Right. Well, that's also too why, like, you know, I always say with this podcast, like, yeah, we get into all different kinds of things, and I like it to be tangential and organic. But I also try to stay away from, you know, politics and a lot of the kind of current stuff, just because there's so many millions of avenues for that. You know what I mean? And like, we're also inundated with it. Like, I kind of want this to be always. You can't turn on anything without seeing something that's you know, clickbaity and trying to get you to, you know, get angry or upset or whatever. But you know, I just feel like I want this to be a bit of an escape for people to a certain degree, you know, be able to like dive into, like, let's just focus on what it is that we love and let's talk about that. And you know what I mean? If maybe in the long run it suffers a little bit because it's not clickbaity and it's, you know, maybe it gets less plays because of it, I'm okay with that. Yeah. You know?
Completely. And with everything that I create, I'm kind of like okay with that too. Right. As long as we can step away from it at the end of the day and be happy with it, then I guess it's like kind of the bigger picture of it too, you know? Right. And again, art wouldn't exist if it wasn't for other people's like take on it. So it is nice to know that other people are listening, other people are watching, other people are showing up. But I mean, I'd probably be doing this shit anyway.
Yeah, me too. Cool, man. Well, we're at an hour and 35. We're seconds away from eclipsing the longest episode, which was with Caleb Hudson on the last one. So sorry, Caleb. But thanks for coming down and doing this, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a treat, man. Once you told me about it, I was excited to get on here. Yeah. I mean, we've had a chance to converse in the past and to be able to like sit down and talk. Right. It's been nice, man.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. You want to? Well, first of all, we're gonna have to do this again. I'd love to have you on again, maybe in a couple months or something. Continue the conversation. And do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, always, because I am a social media maven. No, yeah, I'm gonna be here for all you people catching this on the live stream. I'll be here at Halcyon this Friday the 15th, and then I'll be performing with the same Defected Records party in LA at Sound on the 16th. Tomorrow I have a release, so it'll be the 15th on Simma Black, track titled "Want You Love." Nice. And then just keep an eye out. Head over to the socials, LaRock, everything, ANTLAROCK. Keep up to date. I do keep up to date with my social media, despite what I've said on this podcast. Yeah, poking you. Man. It's intricate. Yeah. You have to do it. Right. So if you head over to the socials, man, everything's there. And it was just it was a pleasure to be able to talk with you and everybody else. So thank you.
Sweet, man. Cool. Well, I'm Scott Brio. This is the voice of electronic music, number 42 with LaRock. We're here at Halcyon on 11th Street in San Francisco, arguably one of the best streets in San Francisco. If you want to check out our other episodes, we are on every major streaming platform. So, you can just Google us, SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, all that stuff. Instagram too, and YouTube. So we will see you guys on the next one, and thanks for tuning in. Peace out.